This cross was named that corresponds to the ability to him. It was a hook. The hero was in the Resel, the main city of Rasindu. The father told the boy that the ability he got was really wonderful. The guy thanked. Crossbar Horst, this is the 5th son of the Count. In this country, when a person reaches the age of 15 years, a rite of assessment is held, during which God gives him a special skill. The hero's family was stunned by his words about the look and the dream of God. The father pointed to a church that could already be seen in the distance. For Cross, it was the first time he saw his father so happy. After the birth of the hero, his mother died, and the family perceived him as the embodiment of evil. Hating for his life cost his mother. It was believed that he could be isolated at any time. But despite it, he lived quite well. One day he was greeted with a good morning. The hero thought that he is alive only because of the useful political benefit, his wedding. Although at first glance, Ellis seemed like a charming girl. In fact, she was a sadist who mercilessly mocked him since childhood. Ellis wondered if it is useful to have such a good skill as he had. Cross thanked Ellis and expressed his hope that his skill would be useful. The girl spared, turned, and promised that they would still meet. It seemed strange to him that she was not angry. The man reminded that they were time to go, and the hero agreed, with the hope that the terrible days would end today. Hoping that a new life will begin with his new hook, the hero heard that Bahara's devaluation ceremony will now take place. He was told to touch the hand of a stone monument. Cross agreed. He stretched and put his hand on the monument that shone. There was a hook on the screen. People discussed rumors that it was able to accumulate skills, and then the hook really fell. The father asked the hero to show Gotch immediately, and he agreed. He reached forward. A screen appeared before his eyes. He wondered why the screen shined so brightly, and how to show it to others. This screen seemed only to see him. Turning to all, he said loudly that he had a hook screen before him, and now he could rotate him. He thought that his new life was finally beginning. Cross noticed something strange. People whispering something around. He realized that the hook did not rotate. The hero was frightened. There was an inscription on the screen that he was lacking in points. It became a real shock for him. Did he ask himself that the glasses were like that? Why can't they turn them? After all, he could do it even in a dream, right? Cross began to think about how to get them at all. The father wondered if the guy gained his skill and asked to demonstrate it soon. The hero said that he seems to be able to use it now. The father's face changed, and he asked again what he said. The brothers returned to him wary. One of them wondered if he really was trying to deceive them. Frightened, he answered. The hero replied that he really saw it in a divine dream. He was asked why he would not twist Gotch. He explained that he has not enough glasses for this. The brother insisted on to go and earn them. Cross began to look for information but could not understand why they did not write how to earn them and why he was not told in a dream. He was very excited and swore. The father regretted that the cross brought them only shame. The son, with his eyes full of tears, looked at him. Turning to his father, he heard, as he asked, he was not enough for him that he killed his mother. Now he will also pump the name of the Beckerstisk family. The hero replied that it was not. The father called him a freak and ordered him to be silent. He stressed that the son is a spot on the reputation of Beckerst's family, and this time he is definitely not going to forgive. He exclaimed that the cross was rejected. The hero wondered if he could change something. Meanwhile, the cart was slowly rolled on the road. The cart moved, and the boys discussed how light the hero was. One asked if he really thought he would be able to outwit the brothers, lied so large, scale. Another noted that if he listened to him, he would now live in a prestigious house. The hero asked the sword, explaining that he would certainly kill his monster. The man reached out to his sword, ordered to take it. Cross sincerely thanked. The drawing on the floor shone, and the hero disappeared. The guys asked if he really disappeared. The other replied that their eyes seemed to never see his face again. The forest enveloped darkness. Suddenly, a pillar of light broke out in his heart. Chris appeared on the edge of the forest, looked around and said it was the lower world. He mentioned the monsters living in the lower world. Residents of the upper world live, combined by a single magic circle through the unbreakable gates. These people are so unique in the world. Magical transportation circles are used to send criminals to the lower world. They fall into random places from which it is impossible to return. Cross wondered what to do next. Suddenly in the bushes, the eyes shook. Cross, turning, felt a shrewd fear. He looked at him. That the wolf appeared so early. These wolves are larger and fierce than ordinary. They are not afraid to attack even armed people. The monster was confidently approaching, and Cross grabbed his sword. The hero remembered how he was the best student at the Night Academy, even once fought with a monster. He was aware that creatures from the upper world were weaker than the locals, and realized that here, most likely, his fencing skills could be decisive. He ran to him. Cross lifted his leg and struck the enemy in the face, simultaneously waving the sword. The monster bounced a little back when the hero, shouting, sent his weapon to him with a powerful blow. He cut the beast muzzle, but he did not even shudder. The hero wondered that in the lower world the battle is a natural enemy of instinct. The wolf had already opened his mouth right in front of the Cross, and he began to rotate his sword. He struck, from which the sword penetrated through the beast's mouth, and blood was flowing. The monster was overthrown. The hero stood near his breathless body, thinking about how more effort had to be made than expected. But he acknowledged that the sword was surprisingly good, and justified all the inconvenience of this request. Cross inspected the body of the wolf and decided to drain his blood now. He noted that he heard the monster Mr. Soft was very tasty. The hero noticed something unusual. 100p corruption flicked above the body. He thought that when you destroy the monster in the upper world, this is not the case. He was not convinced what role it played, but suddenly remembered the mysterious R cross. Going to Gashi, he could not believe what it was possible. He exclaimed that they were already in place, and they have 100 points. The hero realized that it was possible to get points by destroying monsters. The hero realized that his unsuccessful skill is useful, but only in that ancient world filled with monsters. He was angry, and he exclaimed, "What's the devil?" He shouted that maybe the highest world would seem that it was difficult to use this ability, and then he would continue to come into the lower world. But this requires special equipment and skills. Cross lay on the grass, spreading his arms and legs, and said that may be better. He thought that it was too late and did not want to take anything from these people. The hero thought that he had gone through many suffering and humiliation to get what he has, and would be very evil if he does not get his skill. Despite this, he said that he could still set up Guha. Only the monsters need to be found. Cross said that he learned to survive all this time, and after all, hope appeared in his life. He smiled. At this time, there was a beautiful home in the upper world, in one of his rooms. On the bed lay the sad Alice, firmly pressing a pillow with the image of the cross. Someone asked him if he was really so stupid. Tata lifted his gaze and saw Ellis. She noted that he seems to be trying to rise in status at the expense of the dream of a nearby god. The girl asked if she had something to say something. The hero replied that it was wonderful that she had to break the engagement with such a fool. T replied that she could not claim that her behavior suits, but she is doing her best to save him from this place. He wondered what she meant. Ellis noted that she said mostly what she wanted to say. She stated that he was like a dog, a toy and a slave for her, so she couldn't just leave him. Cross asked if it really was, how exactly it would help him. The girl sat on a chair, dressing him in the hospital, and removed her boot, lifting her leg so that her leg was right in front of his face. She ordered him to lick the shoe to prove her devotion. Then she promised that she would return to their engagement and, when they marry, leave this place. The girl also added that he would arrange a ceremony and for the sake of his enemy family from the face of the earth. She asked him to prove her dedication. Cross touched her tongue to her leg, but she quickly pushed him away. Ellis was outraged. He shouted if she had to go with her toys and sneeze carelessly. He stated that it was not her slave. It stunned the girl, and she denied that in the lower world he was waiting for death. The hero asked if she finished and was going to move on. He said he had already made a decision. The girl became angry, left the room and said that he would remember it, and did not try to come to him with tears. After that, Cross became ill and was forced to return home for rest. He was thinking that in order to smoke the gash, he needed to win the monsters and collect points from them. Later, Alice went to the maid, who asked who was her guest. The girl replied that everything should be in full order. She reported that tomorrow she would see the Cross again and asked her to prepare her things. The maid, evading the conversation, hinted that was still something important. She reported that Cross had already gone to the lower world. Alice was stunned. She shouted with horror on the entire palace. The hero found himself in the lower world. He skillfully struck the sword. The body of the wolf lay motionless on the ground. Cross noted that this is his second victim. He felt a sweat knitting on his face. He realized that a large flock of wolves gathered in this area, and his rare hook ability allowed to have unlimited skills. He suggested that one wolf received 100 points, and he needs to score 500. At first, Cross decided to immediately use the hook as soon as it accumulates the required number of points. If you hunt wolves alone and without problems, it could safely collect many points. That is why he dreamed of collecting 5,000 points, which would make the fashionable gotch. The hero thought about the ease of his body, because, as he heard, this ability depends on his own strength. He seems to float over the earth, focusing on the goal full of hope. He stated that he already has 37 victories in his account, and the conquest was completed. According to him, everything goes to the fact that he calmly collects 5,000 as the sun is still illuminating the path. Cross decided to check the number of points. With a smile on his face, he opened the screen, but suddenly something caught him suddenly. There are only 25 points left on the account. He realized that they did not increase. Cross could not understand why they were so low and where everyone had disappeared. He tried to come together with thoughts. The hero reassured himself, reminding that there should be some reason. Reflecting on hunting problems, the hero thought whether every creature had a different number of points. He considered the body of the wolf carefully. The interface seemed to no longer reflect points. Cross suggested that he may have hunted too much. He was convinced that he had to check the number of points before. The majestic mountains became even more mysterious under the sunset. At that moment in the underworld, Cross felt unconcealed annoyance. Having killed the monster, a figure of 100 appeared above him. The hero looked exhausted. He assured himself that once, under the clear sun, he would earn dreams of 5,000 points. In the end, he decided to change the place for hunting for goblins and switch to fangs. He believed that goblin was easier to destroy, because they were completely defenseless, and instead there were fang rails. He realized that fang rails attack like small wolves, fast and agile, making them almost unattainable for the sword. The protagonist confessed that since he found himself in the lower world, his life has become a continuous struggle with monsters. Only his abilities save him from death. He went to the screen of Gotchi again, where 5,000 points remained on the balance sheet. Cross was so happy that he almost wept. He noted that it was really an end and urged to find out what was there. He believed that 3 abilities are likely to include healing, evaluation, and cultivation. And undoubtedly, all these skills were very rare and required high levels. The hero thought that usually only 1 skill was given at the assessment ceremony, but he managed to take over 3. The pleasure glowed in his eyes. Now he was hesitant to circle around or hide in a safe place. In the meantime, Cross stared at the button. He decided and, without delay, pressed the button. Suddenly, from heaven, something rapidly approached him, standing right in front of the hero. He bounced back, full of fear. Getting rid of confusion, he looked carefully at the unexpected phenomenon. Cross realized that it was a treasure in the chest. It was written above him that he must be touched. The hero decided to touch the inscription and did it. The lock on the chest clicked, and it dissolved as if it came to life. From there, the glowing spheres flew up. They made it up, hanging in the air in front of the fireplace. He listed the balls and noted that they were only 11. He wondered if they were all skills. Cross noted that the balls seemed to have different variations, and among them was this copper sphere. He reached out, he felt as she shone. The hero was impressed and even surprised when he opened his eyes. The balls gradually became transparent, opening their amazing properties. Cross realized that it is one of those copper balls, and it hidden all possible abilities. He noted that it was rather a change in ability that he could not understand. He confessed that he did not know how to continue their use near a copper ball. The hero noticed that there were even more attractive abilities here, but did not understand how to find out whether the ability of sword was only about one-handed swords. The next was the gold sphere. He realized that these are magical skills that made survival simple things, as if spitting. Ross finally said, "Rainbow sphere." He tensed, realizing that no 3-point skill had fallen, and without delay, touched the sphere. The sphere shone with bright light, and the result of the first level appeared on it. From joyful excitement, he exclaimed that it was incredible, and immediately decided to experience a new skill. The hero did not want to lose any skills, so imagining the name of the skill, closing his eyes and focusing on awareness. When he opened his eyes, he was waiting for a surprise. A sign of data updates appeared in front of him, and weird marks were flashing around everywhere. Cross was puzzled, without realizing what was happening. The marks were flawed on flowers, stones, lizards. The hero became interested in this intriguing feature, and guessed that it allows him to fully appreciate it. Lifting the peach, he plunged into his mark. Persic information has opened, but new levels of parts have emerged. Cross noted that this is logical, with an increase in the level of determined items. However, he was pleased that at the first level he could already determine the toxicity. He looked down, watching the mark on his hand begins to load. A panel appeared in front of the hero showing information about him. He suggested that it was his status. The panel indicated that it has 9 skills. Tears turned to his eyes. He grabbed his stomach. He was so hungry that even tears flowed from his eyes. The night came. The hero noted that at the first level he was capable only of such tricks, lifted his finger from which the light escaped to the branch. She flashed. The fire broke up, and over it turned on the spruce cooked dishes. And to satisfy appetite, the hero was delighted. He exclaimed how delicious it is. There was a monster's skin on the ground. Cross noted that, in his opinion, it would survive the cold. He settled between the skins, thinking about how much to do tomorrow, in particular, to recruit gacha vents for hunting monsters. The hero was going to improve the base and increase the level of skill of the doctor if the opportunity happened. After thinking, he fell asleep sweetly. He saw a dream where someone called him by name. It was Ellis. She said that if it weren't for her, no one would take such a scum like him. She insisted that he obey her orders, and if she does not understand, let him answer. His name sounded again and again. He saw her big eyes in which his name flicked. The hero woke up in a cold sweat with a loud cry. After calming down, he realized that it was only a dream. He could not understand why he still sees such visions, because he finally escaped from this captivity. He tried to fall asleep again, but suddenly remembered the school uniform of aristocrats. He remembered Alice. Cross seemed that since then the mystery of the true essence of Alice was exposed. They mentioned how beautiful she was. Someone noted that Alice was reminiscent of a degenerate angel. She did not like this comparison at all. She believed that such a comparison was to blame for her beauty, which is 100 times more than any angel. When Cross and Ellis were little, Cross told the girl that she did not touch him better because he was a devil's child. The girl recalled that it was their first meeting with Cross. She was surprised how he did not pay attention to her, but thought, well, she was convinced that in fact the Crossbargress was just crazy about her. The next day, she decided to start visiting him. She noted that they were waiting for an incredible adventure today. He replied that there was no horse here, but suddenly the paddle appeared. She sat down on him, began to beat and shout to accelerate, and rushed like a hunted horse. She thought Cross took her as she really was, and she was unnoticed to him. However, there was another explanation. People said Mrs. Ellis was so generous that she deliberately attended this mediocrity. She asked who was talking about. She was answered, of course, about the Cross, the man who went. Everywhere they believed that they were so immersed in their thoughts that they did not even notice his charisma and behave funny. They are the embodiment of mediocrity. She felt the image, and wondered if it was possible to put these scoundrels in place. She thought of an interesting idea. She leaned to her father and whispered something in his ear. He understood and agreed to act immediately. Turning to graceful ladies and elegant gentlemen, he asked for attention. He noted that his daughter, Ellis, wants to make an ad. She announced that by the name of Ellis Leaford was engaged in Cross with a borist. All around were amazed, including Cross's. After that, they began to attend the school for aristocrats. Because of different specialties, they rarely managed to see. Rumors about the ability of Cross's came to her, and she was proud of it. The girls discussed that the Cross from a night shift was so cute, but it turned out that he already had a couple, and they thought who it was. When they saw the Cross waving Ellis, they guessed. Ellis confirmed, yes, they are engaged with Cross. The girls were amazed. Alice wondered why she decided to tell him that. At that moment, a cross with a gift in her hands appeared before her. She looked at him seriously. The girl asked what he had in that box. He replied that these are gifts. Suddenly, Cross became a favorite among girls. Ellis thought that for them a novel between a beautiful young lady and a pretty man is the best entertainment. The Cross, which behaves as a real duke, they really like it. The girl told him what he became very popular. She reminded him of not forgetting one important point. She is his bride. The hero smiled and replied, "Out of the same way." The girl also smiled. Alice recalled that at first she was a little jealous, but over time, these thoughts gradually dispelled. She ordered him not to communicate with women, except for her, because she was chosen by the bride. She shouted that he was worthless without her. Alice thought about how the flames of her jealousy burst around, chasing crosses. She destroyed his reputation at school, deprived his confidence, immersing him in silence. Its purpose was to protect him from others, but she only depreciated him, fixing on appearance. She questioned the maid about what was said. It was said that he seems to have an extremely rare skill of Gosh, and indeed Cross deserves it like no other. The girl replied that it was time to prepare a speech for the speech. She was worried that if everything goes so on, she can be divorced with a Cross. The day of the ritual came. The girl learned that he was kicked out. She was glad, believing that Cross was in a hopeless position. Ellis reasoned that after a shame, which permanently tides the Bagerst family, their engagement would inevitably break. And at the moment she extends her hand to a desperate Cross, his life will become her property. This was to happen that way. Standing in front of the window, she recognized her mistake. She thought that if he were a little more obedient, it would not have led to the fact that they would never see each other again. She did not understand why, but not having time to contract, she closed her face with her hands. She cried, standing by the window. The maid tapped on the door carefully, apologizing for her peace. Ellis exclaimed that the maid did not open the door. The maid replied that she was clear. Ellis asked what kind of help it was necessary. The maid explained that the head of the family ordered the message. The girl asked about her father, and reported that she was asked to prepare for audience with King Raken. Ellis thought. Cross was in surprise, watching how the fruit really increased in size. Happy biting the peach, the hero felt his sweet and juicy taste, which instantly drove all the fatigue. He looked at the fact that this mother twice as usual, and only 5 days became fruitful. 5 days ago, he made 25 robes. He was glad, because now he had 11 hook skills. The sun was shining brightly. Now Ross had 2 rainbow color skills. He noted that there were many new skills. Although their rank has declined, the level was still growing. He possessed the skill of rainbow cultivation, which could reduce the time of cultivation and improve the quality of the object, affecting the taste, strength, weakening, and other characteristics. Cross-cultivation attempts have shown that the cultivation of a tree that brings fruits takes about 5 days. The hero was impressed, seeing a tree with fruits in just such a short time. He exclaimed that the skills with the rainbow turned out to be even more cunning than he imagined. He said that in the 5 days he focused on the development of new skills, and eventually defeated the skeletal and fairy. Cross explained that new abilities have become available simply by pushing the button. Various skills are scattered around. The hero jumped out of joy, shouting, now he has the ability to heal. Finally, he gained the skill he has been waiting for. He noted that with the help of this skill, he would be able to prepare herbs. The description stated that this ability allows you to create potions from medicinal herbs and ingredients. Cross was surprised. He said that the situation was, this requires the ingredients that he has been looking for 5 days, but there are almost no medicinal herbs. The hero noted that although anxiety about wounds and diseases disappeared, he decided to look for a place where they were more. A blow came. The piece of sword entered the ground, which the surprised Cross looked at. He noted that the sword broke. At this time, he fought with a fan, Bull, whose health remained only 150 out of 1,000. The hero exclaimed that it was some kind of curse, because the health of the sword is almost over. In his hands, only the handle of the bronze sword remained, which exhausted 200 out of 200 units of strength and became unusable. Fleeing from the bull, Cross said that the initial strength of the weapon was low, and now reached the limit, and in battle against such a monster instantly broke. He believed that magic could not yet be mastered, and fisheries and cultivation would not benefit. The bull was rapidly approaching. The hero realized that the collision would take place. He hit his fist with all his strength in the face of the bull who rushed to him. After the impact, the monster stood on the rear hoof and dropped back, losing his balance. He died. Cross noted that the bull was near the first level of force, and he did not expect a collision with such a powerful opponent. Carefully checking the number of points, he saw the figure of 200, and it surprised the hero. He noted that it usually does not exceed 100 points, and suggested that the stronger the opponent, the more points you can earn. Even at the first level of martial arts, they had incredible power. A few seconds after using this skill, his hands weakened. His gaze stopped at drops of blood flowing from his hand. Cross was stunned. He shouted without even realizing what was happening. His hand changed continuously, swelling. Shouting a full voice, he asked what it was. Tears turned into the eyes of the hero, and in despair he activated the pharmacist's skill. His hand was between two white colors. He said to take shio grass and place it in magical purified water. It was done, and it began to process the damaged area with this potion. He poured his hand, screaming from pain. The cry flew the moon throughout the forest. The hero lay on the grass, evaluating an unusually recovered hand, and noted that the pain almost disappeared, and his rainbow skills are amazing. There was a sword handle nearby. Cross has selected her, and noted that it is in vain to wait for the martial arts and pharmaceuticals of miracles. The sword must be looked after. The hero used the blacksmith skill. Put on the anvil the sleeve of a broken sword and a cow canine. Juga's sword of blacksmith skill was completed. The attack was 70, and endurance was 200. Cross noted that maximum strength was reached in record time. However, in battle, the hero realized that even such a sword did not meet all his needs. The hero realized that it was time to find allies. He realized that in order to turn into a hook, he should overcome new monsters. If an extremely strong enemy appears in the future, it would be too dangerous to fight on their own. He said that friends could alternate in guarding until one of them was resting. And in the battle, tactics are created together. Cross mentioned how brutal abductions prevailed in the upper world, and if several people were united, they could use a joint spell. He noted that he would try to find some traces because humanity is sinful and wild. He thought about the difficulty of making friends, as generations and everything around change over time. But he believed that at least someone would help him. Suddenly the hero noticed something important. He noticed a person in armor and thought it could be his chance, though he did not imagine how to use it. The girl greeted the cross and confessed that she could not believe when he was mocked in a higher society. She asked if stories were not told differently. She noted that in any country they remain real friends, and he is the only one in whom she had no doubt. Cross recognized that she was a surprise for him. The girl removed the helmet and said that meeting with him is much more interesting than night training with his sword, although the fight with him is always difficult. LSC, raising the voice, asked what they were doing here and why the girl called her. She insisted that she was explained. The girl asked why Ellis was here and said she had caused her to be a king, hinting if they were here together. This girl was a Mycelian mine, an illegitimate child of one of the 3 clans who had the title of Archives in the Kingdom of Rachmaned. On the day of the evaluation ritual, she received extremely rare talent. Ellis remembered how she studied with the cross in the courses in knighthood. Their discussions were always exciting, and she liked to find common topics with him, spending more time with crossing in the academy than with herself. At the same time, she compared herself with a mine, which she hated the most because of the larger breast size. "I want to wear girls," said the senior of the Barist family. One of them noted that Ms. Ellis was also called, and the other asked who they had here and or maybe Minnie is not a beauty. They noted that Ms. Ellis is incredibly charming today, and that Minnie recently met a monster in the city and instantly destroyed him, for which the girls expressed their gratitude. One of the brothers asked if he was to defend the common people at all. The other addressed Ellis, wondered whether such an unsurpassed bridegroom came up, noting that now that he disappeared. Melissa apologized and noted that someone, like him, is unlikely to be able to replace Cross. The guy was surprised. She added that she would no longer make bizarre statements about what is allegedly majestic than Cross. Menace said that her strength is intended to protect everyone, regardless of origin, whether it is a common man or an aristocrat. She could change her beliefs if they were in danger, and it was a surprise for the boys. The girls said goodbye to him, and the performance began. On the throne sat the king, the owner of the Risifal castle, the ruler of the country Rakind, Risifal VII. Turning to the noble representatives of the 3 duchy families, he apologized for calling them so unexpectedly. Father Cross asked the interlocutor, which he was talking about. The man assured that the representatives of the Bellerst family always respond to the call of His Majesty Lightning. Then he remembered a monster who recently appeared. Mina's father noted that Miss Cecilian's family had already coped with him, and asked if the king had remarks. He replied that no, everything was done perfectly. He noted that he wanted to share the details of the letter received from the Pope. A girl approached him. People said that she heads the night detachment and always remains wonderful. He unfolded the paper. She said that the article describes the recent appearance of a mysterious monster, which terrifies on a small town, and the author took the content of divine sleep, the details of which he outlined below. She noted that it may be worth talking about more earthly affairs rather than divine speeches, because in recent times, the huge flocks of monsters attacked the city. People are scared, discuss the situation, and fear that their country is at risk. However, the girls assured that it is not necessary to worry, because the gods have already found a way to repel monsters' attacks, giving people special skills. They pointed to the 3 chosen ones who will have these abilities, starting with the first of them. The head of the Night Guard stated that it was the blessing of the providence of the Holy Virgin, and Ellis Riefeld became the chosen carriage, which was very surprised. Her father called her a wonderful girl, for which Ellis thanked. Ellis thought that her abilities were really too powerful for the peaceful upper world. She thought that here, in this new world, her rare talent will be used against monsters, and that it is from this day that her heroic history begins. The head of the night detachment mentioned another person. She noted that it was a brand of brave, whose owner is Massilian. Ellis, biting her lips, repeated it again. She thought that she had a rear support skill, and if you instruct all the disgusting creatures of a girl with cow's udder, it would be a good angry. But thanks to work near ordinary people and soldiers, sympathy for it is guaranteed to increase. She imagined the Mini would die on the battlefield where she would be brutally killed. The head of the Night Guard mentioned the last third person. The Crusader brothers believed that it was about them. The girl who read the letter was stunned. She remembered that it was the power of the hook. Hearing this, Ellis, Mine, and Cross brothers were stunned. She noted that the owner of Cross Bahar skills, his father, was puzzled. The king noted that these 3 skills have repeatedly become the subject of discussion because they were all members of the Duchess families, and they were not extraordinary to fight the monsters. At the same time, at the Pope's suggestion, owners of Monsters Against Monsters will appear in the future. He stated that there was no reason to be afraid of monsters' attacks, and they will be able to guarantee the safety of their prosperous country, and then laughed. Ellis was tense. She realized that the king was smiling, and judging by his appearance, he does not yet know where the cross is. This meant that she and Mine would have to deal with the monsters on her own, because the patron family complicated everything. The king wondered what they were talking about the patron family, as well as their 5th son, Cross. He tried to find out where the cross was now and what happened to him. Cross's father shuddered with fear. The king asked if the cross from the Beckhorst family had the skill of Gach. The father was delayed with the answer, noting that the cross has a little more health. He was interrupted by Father Ellis, turning to the king. He assured that in no way Cross can appear here. The king turned to the Duke of Riefeld and asked his intentions. Father Ellis noted that he would best hear about it from the first mouth, namely, from the head of the family. The boy's father, stuttering, reported that Cross had committed the offense and was sent to the lower world. The king, while in shock, asked what was said. He exclaimed that, figuratively speaking, Cross received the special mercy of the gods, and wondered what he had done. Beckhorst replied that Cross was extremely serious. The king asked how serious the mistake was if a 15-year-old young man was exiled into the lower world. Cross's father was thinking. Someone went forward and stated that Cross did not commit any offense. There were many witnesses. She noted that during the ritual of the assessment, the Duke Beckhorst decided that he had lied, because he could not demonstrate his abilities. As a result, the Cross was expelled into the lower world. The king was surprised and asked how someone could commit such stupidity. The father of Cross called Nina a worthless girl and shouted indignantly that she intervened in another's conversation and also dared to tell the fables. Father Ellis noted that almost all present were witnesses and asked if it was true. In addition, he recalled the letter that he recently read, confirming that all the Cross said was truth. He returned to the Duke of Beckerstra and asked if he really happened because he did not trust his son. The Duke denied loudly that everything was completely different. Alice considered it a good sign. The father of Alice appealed to the king, claiming that even before the critical situation in the country, he provided all the difficulties. The people of Ryfold will go in search of the cross to remove anxiety from the king. The king replied that it sounds encouraging. Alice asked permission to give advice on what the king asked her essence, and allowed him to speak. The mouth asked if they brought the crossbow, and whether His Majesty could appoint him by Beck-Gerst's family. Cross's father responded to this shocked exclamation. He asked if the Duke Rehfeld was trying to ridicule him, wishing to win the right to inherit for the fifth son of Cross. The Duke replied that this is why he wanted to discuss it with His Majesty, because it would not be easy to turn Cross. The king asked what he was in mind. Father Ellis noted that Cross was unjustly baptized as a criminal, expelled into the lower world, and his family was brutally with him. If it is put here, it can think of revenge on the country. So, by handing him the title and raising his status, they will give Cross to the chance to repay the conflict themselves. Cross's father turned to Your Majesty with tears in his eyes. He pleaded, he prayed, asked for forgiveness. The king asked if his life mission was in defense of the country or he was mistaken. He said that he was offered to return the cross, provided that he would receive the title, and he intended to fulfill the condition. The Duke of Beckhorst was upset. Alice believed that it was quite clear. Reflecting that her father, with a relationship with the cross, plans to seize the power of two Duchess families, she realized that if he succeeds, he will become more powerful than the king, and perhaps even want the royal throne. She said that after all, it is the story of how she and Cross will build their wonderful relationships. They have organized expeditions many times, but they were all defeated. The ships did not return. Gradually, everyone stopped even thinking about getting to the other side of the fog. But he noticed something. Ellis raised her head. She decided that she was indifferent to her father, because she could have a chance to see Cross again. She realized that if she meets the Cross, she must ask for everything that has happened. In the lower world, Cross noticed the golden glow of magic, which gave strength, and thought it was probably a technique for giving weapons and protective equipment with new properties. The hero decided to test new magic immediately, and used it to enhance his capabilities. He had a sword of a bulltooth and a skill that could give him considerable strength. Both abilities were capturing the hero, but he understood that the choice should be made in favor of only one. In the end, he decided to choose the skill of chop stroke because it looked incredible. Pressed the button to confirm that the Bekozub sword was endowed with this ability. Directing to another, Cross focused on the smell. He looked out of the forest. When he came closer, he was expected by an unexpected discovery. He said it was a sea standing on a sandy shore. He heard the waves splashed. Cross noted that this sea is no different from the cherished at the top, and the distance wraps the fog. He thought about the world immersed in this haze. Everyone considers it habitual, because no one has the idea that is hidden outside the fog. Cross saw the pier where the water splashed. The hero came to the pier, concentratedly reflecting on the missing boats. Local fishermen, having lived here all their lives, were now forced to go somewhere in other places. Something happened, and the return was no longer possible. He stated that the reason did not matter, and took to fishing, throwing the fishing rod. The hero noted that it can always eat meat and fruits, because sometimes you want seafood. And immediately he exclaimed that the fish had already taken up and quite large. Cross stretched the fishing rod with all its strength, and a huge monster with a spear in his hands emerged from the water. The hero was stunned. He realized that he was standing in front of Sakajin. The monster shouted loudly, preparing for the attack. It was shaking with the spear, but the hero cleverly evaded. Then he snatched his sword. Cross felt annoyance. His thoughts were constantly returning to the Sakajan's spear who blocked the pier. How silly. On such a narrow bridge, it is impossible to get closer. Decided that here and now the best moment to try. Using the magical abilities of the sword, he applied the skill of a devastating blow. The monster was cut. Cross jumped forward, and Sakajin stretched back. Cross has struck another. The blood flowed from the monster. The hero saw 200 points and thought that, raising the level, would be able to destroy enemies with one blow. The hero said that, having mastered the second level of fishing art, he would be able to catch something worthwhile. He focused on the water from which the monster's heads peaked. He shouted loudly that there was a whole horde of Sakajin. Considering their characteristics, he thought that he would eventually be able to try seafood. Cross realized that they were safe for consumption and edible. Although it was stated that they could be eaten, he did not feel the desire. Subsequently, he tried to catch the fish again, but did not catch none. He was only able to accumulate points. Quiet whispers were heard everywhere. A bear was sitting on a chair. The king entrusted the Duke of Riefeld's task of finding a cross, assuring what he could rely on. The king was approached by the current head of the Massilian family, Father Mina. He stated that they would also join the cross search. The king wondered if the Miss Sicilian family would join the task, and Father Mina confirmed this by adding something important. He reported that, moreover, they would be involved in the search and a brave mine. The girl's heart was more likely. The king and father of Ellis looked at the young man. People around asked, "Who will protect this country then?" A wave of whispers swept in the hall. Menu's father noted that her ability to impress the brave is equal to the invincible force. The king noted that in the case of a great attack of monsters in their absence, it turns out that the cross is in the underworld, and for a long time was in a much more dangerous position than all of them. He stressed that in such a situation it was impossible to delay, and wondered if it is not obvious that it should be put in the first place. The king agreed, noting that there is a proportion of truth. Then he asked the mind to question whether she agreed. The girl agreed and asked to entrust it to her. The king finally gave way. He noted that he was proud of the decision to rely on her, and added that now everyone is free. Some of the audience wondered if she could also take part in the search. It was Ellis. She reported that she had recovered, she gained new skills, and her body gained incredible strength. In addition, Ellis added that she was engaged in cross, and asked if it was true that he could not find the best candidate. The king agreed, saying that it is difficult to argue. The girl thought, because now she was his former bride. Mine turned to His Majesty, indicating that it was not the best idea. Crowell was stunned. The girl said that Cross always told her. She said that Cross said Ellis drove him to a dead end with her arrogant and rude attitude. Alice was amazed to the depths of her soul and did not restrain her, shouted. The menu noted that if the cross has suddenly faced her, then it is likely to be scared and run away, and it would be even harder to return it. Ellis spinned around and screamed to wait for her to ask that she was weaved and calling to think what she was saying. The menu added that in the worst case he could perform a terrible act. Alice exploded with anger, forcing the menu to silence. The king watched the events and turned to Alice, whether what was true, what the menu said. Responding, Elise glittered with a spark of a new idea. Alice began to justify. Minnie thought that he told her during a private conversation, but she was skepticism as if it were a lie. Alice confessed that it is sometimes rude in relationships with crosses. The king was frozen in great surprise. Alice explained that she has a good reason, because although she is engaged in crosses, this insidious person is constantly looking at him. The king was indignant. How is it possible? In the end, the girl objected, insisted that her relationship with crosses were always sociable. She noted that once Alice has already made such an impression, it should be discussed personally. In addition, she was constantly breaking into the cross, expressing her anger. Alice wondered if she had a lack of attention from her. She replied that the mine also did not listen to her, so she has to turn to the cross. He noted that Ellis never told her anything like that. She objected, insisting that she said clearly and directly. The dispute about whether the words of Ellis were indeed pronounced were pronounced, and that angered the king. The atmosphere between the girls was incredibly tense. The king exclaimed that they are enough. He loudly stated that it didn't matter which of them he did, and demanded that they bring Crispek as soon as possible. Minnow asked Alice how she plans to get a Christmas. But she thought that Mina was an annoying person. Alice noted that she was going to persuade him, because her father has already prepared a wonderful gift for Crispek. Mint asked if she implies that the cross would be given the title after returning. Alice noted that this is a wonderful idea of her father, to ask crosses to the head of the family. Mint agreed with this. She noted that Ellis has no idea about crosses. She noted that Cross is always seeking freedom. Ellis shouted that she was annoying and that he would become a duke, would dispose of the house and money at his discretion. The girl replied that the cross would not be happy from it. She added that whatever the words would say, they would not make sense. Ellis was angry even more and asked what she meant. Mina wished her goodbye and turned her back. At the same moment, she shouted to stop. Ming was lost. She was interested in thinking about how much this freedom matters. He noted that today is April 30th, and April is the final term, so today is the last day for the use of hook skills. He said that every day he twisted the wheel of the hook 11 times and gained several rainbow skills, which was really a lot. He was thinking that the maximum level of rainbow skills is 3. In addition, you need to extract 4 identical skills. He noted that once he had already overcome such a path, then let the development of each other complement. The hero activated the skills. It was a real process of growth and improvement. Cross was overwhelmed by joy. He jumped out of grip and shouted how wonderful he now has all the skills of Rainbow at the maximum level. The hero did not hold back joy, thinking whether it is time to say goodbye to this cave. He confidently entered inside. I am convinced that he did not feel boredom. Cross was carefully familiar with his skills. He said he had gained a silver skill in construction when he tried luck yesterday. He gladly stated that he would finally fulfill his cherished dream. He would build his own house. Place has even chosen a place where he would build his home. Before them lay wooden logs and a high mountain of sand. The hero reported that he would build a house on a slight elevation with a charming view. There is a river nearby, where there are a lot of fish, as well as easy access to areas that are still waiting for research. He decided to continue working with the design. Numerous drawings and schemes unfolded in front of him. He noted that this is only the first stage, so the house would be small. But since it was about to live alone, it didn't matter. The materials for construction were delivered in advance, which allowed you to choose some of them, as well as plan the desired location of the rooms. Chris decided finally, pointing to the drawing. That is his house. His future dwelling appeared in front of him. The hero was amazed. He asked if it was possible to happen so instantly. Putting his hand on the wall, he said with confidence that these strong walls would protect it from the attacks of ordinary monsters. After that, the Cross resolutely opened the door and walked inside. He gladly noted that the interior decoration of the house was also skillfully. He noticed that the curtains were made of skins of monsters, and glass in the windows, from coastal sand. Seeing the kitchen stove, the hero confessed that he always dreamed of such. He noted that if you use culinary skills, the food is prepared instantly, but its taste is not as saturated as in manual preparation. Ross, finding that the only classes here were research and earning points, became interested in cooking. And by the way, he has never tried to cook outside the lower world before. He was pleasantly surprised, not even realizing what exactly caused the impression. He now had a winged sheeplock, and he wondered if he was warmer than he was in his parents' house. He looked at the calendar. Today was April 4th. The hero jumped and opened the screen with the hook. His gaze stopped at him. Cross thought about choosing Ngach. This is where it all started. He decided that before the next month, he would check his characteristics again. Power, 130, Endurance, 123, Agility, 102, Intelligence, 124, Magical Abilities, 155. At that moment he stated that he had won 50,000 points. Of 50,000 points, he used 40,000, making 88 revolutions. It remained 10,000, but it did not bother it. However, his attention was attracted by another aspect. Cross voiced the number of skills available to him, which he lost because of the unsuccessful nature of the hook. The hero examined his skills carefully. He wondered how it happened that he lost a sense of reality. Cross said that this is how he built a beautiful home and no longer imagines life without these skills. Lying on the bed, the hero thought that without emotional connection with the world, you lose the brightness of his perception. Cross remembered something interesting. He noted that the review was aligned to witchcraft and wondered whether there were skills of taming and nurturing monsters. He remembered that tomorrow begins May, and suddenly such opportunities may appear on a new hook. The hero thought if circumstances could really be so favorable. Who knows, perhaps in the next game, there will also be restrictions, and in the worst case, unused points will disappear. The protagonist decided that it is better to spend all points, because maybe in May he would be a message. He said that this bed was really too warm, and seemed to be created to turn a person into a lazy animal. At this time, the Duke of Beckers discussed a recent audience with the king and the evaluation ceremony. One of the Cross brothers said that this scoundrel had shame on them twice. The other brother added that the same is throwing a curse on the future head of the family, the Cross. Doesn't that matter what he says? He replied to this that he was not scared at all. In the end, he did not tease him, so why whether to avenge the Cross? He stated that on the contrary, he would want to take revenge himself, because it was the most mocked. The brother interfered, and noted that he only obeyed orders. Then the other exclaimed, asking what he really did. Someone slammed his fist on the table and shouted loudly, demanding silence. It was a father. He asked who would now go in search of the Cross, emphasizing that this question should be resolved first. The brothers froze in silence. They whispered. One noted that the other would go. He replied that he would give way to his eldest right to go in search. The senior noted that if he descends into the lower world, he would disappear forever. One of the brothers told his father that he was ready to go. He asked if he was true. Suddenly he came across Albert. He smiled mysteriously and confessed that he had a secret plan. He mysteriously noted that everything would become clear later, and promised to return with the cross. The brother wondered if it was a slave collar. The younger confirmed that yes, and that the one who wears it will obey all orders. He noted that he understood. The younger noted that it was a weapon of criminals, and Cross could find out that he used it. Albert asked if he was trying to hint at it. He asked threatening whether he was burned. A huge gate stood in front of Albert. He was explained that she connects the upper world with the lower, and you can go there only through this tunnel. Brother warned Albert to be careful, because the lower world is full of magical power that not only blocks the movement, but also enhances the bodily transformations of demons. Another advised to remain silent, noting that 20 knights from the Borst family with him, and he did not know who before him. Albert was thinking about how many of them were now, and finding a common language was almost impossible. His eldest son and brothers seemed to be unable to take this wonderful opportunity that they all had, but no one wanted to take advantage of it. He planned to use the cross and the slave Koldzo in order to gain power in Dekustradi. He ordered the boys to go forward, and they agreed. The cross, holding the sword in his hand, stood in the water on his knees. The light was already breaking through the window. The hero lay in bed. Suddenly waking up, he shouted loudly that he had come in the morning. Looking at the calendar, he shouted loudly that May. Wasting time, he opened the hook screen to find out what was waiting for him. There was a report on the screen that the celebration of May was in full swing. It was also confirmed that the hook contained 10,000 points, and that the stage of April Hook had already ended. He clicked on the screen. Frost Commodeb told that he has 10,000 points that he can use for 22 attempts. He noted that 11 revolutions would give him a rainbow gift and pressed the button. Pressing, he saw the box opened, pouring everything in light, and the shining spheres flew up. The hero was glad to gain the technique of the evolution of a silver demon, as well as another ability of the wizard shooter of rainbow creatures. He learned that the evolution of demons contributes to the development of these creatures, and the call is able to call the demons to a certain place. Cross came to think that his skills were in vain if he is not able to control demons. He learned that this talent remains inaccessible because he has no demon to be applied to. The hero urged not to panic, but to just learn how to control demons. He exclaimed that the big battle just started, and looking forward to the news from the cross teacher. He took possession of a demonic manuscript, opening the opportunity to call and control demons. He exclamedly exclaimed that he had mastered all the skills in the set. Cross read that using demons can be conquered if you win. He seemed to be able to control them. He mentioned that he learned at the academy how to make demons to serve himself. The hero fought hard with the monster. "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request." The hero gathered with force without thinking, clenched his fist and struck a monster with a powerful blow. The monster flew back, and Cross thought he had overcome him. A heart appeared over the head of the demon, making the hero be surprised. He had never seen this before, and could only think of what it means. However, he decided not to waste time for reflection and to use the skill of taming demons as soon as possible. The demon said something in his own language, and Gobun became his follower. Cross happily exclaimed that he had succeeded. He confessed that he thought he had killed him, and asked if he was really. In response, Hoban raised his hand. The hero sat down, confessing that he feels extremely tired. He suggested to start shaking his hands and extended his. The demon responded, stretching out. He clasped a cross in his hand. Puzzled, he explained to Gob that when someone reaches out your hand, you need to shake it. He repeatedly repeated that it should be done, not trying to avoid it. The hero thought what a fool was Gob. His hands swollen. He asked if the demon could remember. He decided to find out what characteristics of the demon. The hero was very surprised that Gob's intelligence won, and realized how really stupid he was. Cross noted that he made so much effort to domesticate it, and the result was like that. The hero flashed sharply in his head, as he was called unnecessary. He was confused, remembering how older brothers said that there was no place in the world, and if he forgets, they could get rid of it at any time. The demon looked at the cross. The hero thought that this guy was just as unnecessary. He reached out and returned to the GOP. The hero stroked the demon on his head, noting that they would learn. The harbor was gladly flashed. Cross noted that he answered the same. He thought it was not in vain and could become a prominent warrior. He suggested trying a new reception and using earth calls. Before battle, boo! Look with fear. Cross laughed at his reaction and noted that at such a speed it can be used for some. The demon stirred with his hands from joy. The hero wondered if he was satisfied. Suddenly, sounds heard. The hero said he heard something. Gob continued to wave his hands. Then the hero suggested that he may have seemed it. Goblin's head was cut off on the ground. Albert, with anger, asked what was the matter. Bloody bodies of soldiers were lying on the ground. Albert, raising his voice, asked why they were defeated by Goblin. He turned to the observation detachment. The guy asked for an apology. Albert noted that he always insisted on the use of this skill. However, the fighter explained that because of the high concentration of magical energy, it is difficult to detect even demons, and if activated unnecessarily, energy is in vain. Albert struck him with all force, pushed him, and exclaimed him not to invent any excuses, calling a worthless freak. He was thinking about not expecting such an unpleasant turn of events, and also noted that the knights were fighting worse this time than usual. He asked how many soldiers got serious injuries. The beaten friend replied that there were 6 or 5. He added that everyone was injured in this battle and they would have to go back. Albert noted that their time was limited and suggested to leave those who could not move. Everyone was stunned. He noted that if, when he returned, he would find them alive, he would take them with him. People agreed. Albert reflected how to return what they had just lost due to the goblin attack. Without this, his situation will be in danger. One of the soldiers shouted that he no longer wanted to accompany them, and asked to let him go. Albert turned sharply, glittering with a sword directed forward. Albert's sword ruthlessly pierced his mouth through, forcing blood to fount the blood. He asked who they consider their leader, warning that the rebellious was waiting for the same participation, and asked if it was clear. Suddenly, one of the fighters shouted to Alberta that they found something like human traces, which was a lot of surprised. There was a footprint on the ground. Albert said he was fresh. The guy wondered if these traces of the crash belonged. Albert replied that he did not know what the traces of the craft look, but they can be his size. He said that he would follow this. Someone said gently, "It was a wolf, a new friend." Cross noted that this means that the wolf would also join their team. Looking at the characteristics, he was stunned. The level of the wolf's intelligence was 20, which testified to a great mind. Gob continued to shout out loud. Then Chris asked if he should review EO2. He replied that he would do it. The hero noticed the inscription on himself, which was offered to give him a name. About the name. Cross noted that now that they were in one team, it would be uncomfortable if they had no names. He promised to give him a name and opened the keyboard. He announced that Goblin would now be called Goblin. He immediately went up. The hero was confused. The demon turned into a goblinka. Cross was stunned, amazed by the evolution. He suggested that it could be the result of the demon evolutionary technique he received, and his status has increased significantly. The wolf was killed, and the hero said, "That's right. He should also pick up the name." He suggested calling him Rufan. However, when the wolf imagined in the female form, this name seemed inappropriate. Suddenly the wolf was lit by light. The wolf grew, blossoming into an incredibly sophisticated, beautiful creature. Cross was enthusiastically stated how incredible it is. He and the wolf hugged. The hero made an offer again. He cast his gaze on them and called Goblin and Rufan. From that moment on, they will live together in this world, becoming an indispensable companion. They rushed into his arms. Cross noted that acquaintance with them brought true joy. The evening has come, so it's time to go home. Another figure suddenly appeared from the darkness. Lena noticed it. She and Rufuna alerted her eyes to the trees. The hero shouted to them. They were angry. He asked what suddenly they were annoyed. Looking to the side, he noted that there was something there. Cross was stunned. He realized that the protruded sound belonged to man, and that his source was undoubtedly ore. He realized that he had a younger son, Albert. One of them, with a wicked smile, stated that he found something in the cross. Once upon a time, when Cross still lived on the surface of the world, it lay on the ground in front of the dead dog. Albert commented that the cross is only a brazen owner of several animals, which subsequently got rid of their bodies. He noted that Cross seems to be not aware of his place. Albert noted that the cross is the killer, and because of this, he should not expect any reward. He confessed that only Cross managed to forgive, and now he would have to live under his oppression until the end of his days. However, now they stood opposite each other. The hero felt frightened. He was thinking about why Albert was the younger son of the Backgurst family. One of them said he had been looking for this cross for a very long time. He confessed that he thought he had already died. But this day was the happiest in his life. The hero asked the man why he came. The older brother was surprised. He wondered why the brother was not glad to see him, because he should feel happiness. Added that he came to pick him home. He apologized for having expelled him earlier, assuring that it was only an innocent joke. Cross exclaimed that it was extremely funny, and he almost died of such jokes. Albert asked if it was bad that he was still alive and asked him not to be so cynical. He thought what a surprise it was. He realized that he felt the same as Cross. He thought, realizing that he was not in anger but only scared. Albert recalled how he and his brothers gave him fear and despair. They constantly cared that he never dared to resist them. He was thinking that even with his rare ability, it did not matter. If it remains obedient, everything will be fine. He turned to the boys, and they answered. Albert said that if someone was afraid of this demon, he would destroy them and asked if they agree. The frightened guys agreed. He asked Cross if there were some new animals and expressed doubts. Why they were needed if they were destined to die again. The hero began to justify himself, explaining that he did not kill him. Albert noted that he, Albert, was the one who deprived his life. It was he who explained that the dog was killed, because the Cross was too weak to protect him. One of them was so frightened that he could not say a single word. Albert accused the hero of irresponsibility, arguing that he was not able to take care of the demon, and urged him to leave. Cross strongly stated that they would not return home. Albert turned. The hero announced that he decided to stay here and asked Albert. The man thought for a moment and said that it was all. He noted that he did not feel it would come to him. The hero engulfed a terrible horror. Albert exclaimed that he was saying for nonsense and advised to show more respect, calling him a real fool. His heart was beating quickly, and his legs trembled. Albert shouted, asking what he was doing here at all, and how this demon made him silent. He exclaimed that, otherwise, he would make him shut down, cutting his throat. Flooded, stamped, crossed. Albert guessed that the trauma was switched on, and this is his secret. He realized that the tension in the crossbrain was so great that he could no longer think clearly. Rufuna was vomiting loudly. Her fangs were compressed in aggression. Albert's boys thought it was Liarno, but any cowardly escape, and Albert would deal with them right away. Suddenly, Cross loudly ordered his demons to stop. They were amazed. He explained that he asked them to stop, and thought it could happen if they did not obey his brother. He said his brother would be him. Albert began to laugh, and, when he said, confirmed that Cross was telling the truth. He only needed to obey. He shouted that because of his talent, he is an unworthy life. He agreed and asked for forgiveness. Albert warned that if it turned out to be disobedient again, it would break it again. The hero agreed, pleasing his guilt. He was sorry, and he apologized again. He believed that it was wonderful, because he was now protected and perfect in his perfection, and did not even have to use this slave collar. He thought he had worn from the outset. Then he ordered the boys to pick him up. They obediently executed the team. The hero was shown in handcuffs and the demons were surprised, without realizing what was happening. Goblin turned to him. She reached the cross. One of the boys clenched his fists and warned her not to approach too close. The demon flew back, but cleverly landed on her feet. She was embarrassed. She was taken away. At the same time, he apologized and apologized. He said they were only friends from now on. But he believed that he would become a great warrior. He also apologized for being so helpless before. Goblin cast his gaze on him. She started screaming. She strongly spoke before him. The hero cried, tears flowed across his face, and she screamed. He, surprised by her courage, asked that this brave woman started. The demon turned and rushed. She hid in the bushes. Cross thought that their friendship ended, barely having time to start, because she managed to slip so easy. He wondered whether such moments would remain the last memories of friends. Will he be able to meet them again and learn new rare skills? He wondered if it was his fate. Rufina pulled him for his clothes and Cross returned to her, asked her to retreat. He warned that if she continues to behave like this, he would get on nuts. The hero advised her to run away from here to another place. He wanted to speak about his brother, but he interrupted him and exclaimed that he was unbearable. Albert ordered the Cross to kill that dog. He said he recognized Cross competent if he enforced this order. He ordered to hurry, otherwise he would kill her, making the hero as useless. The hero understood that he could not bring it out of the world, but without executing the order, Albert would take him control again. Tears poured slowly on the face of the hero. Suddenly he noticed something. The boys did not understand what, thinking it was Goblin. Rufuna was grimmin. Albert hit his fist and shouted at a stabbing type, asking if he called them here. demanded that he immediately send them away. The hero was thinking that even though his brother would still hit him, he noticed something strange. His brother's voice disappeared, and his thoughts began to clear up. He realized that he was still feeling the warmth of Rufuna nearby and clearly hears the voice of Gablin. It became clear to him that such a tone in her voice was already familiar with him. Cross came to the conclusion that she liked something. He remembered exactly what it was, and remembered how something was fascinated. He remembered how she was moving, and noted her lightning reactions and incredible speed. The hero came to the hero, and he began to shout. His voice came loudly, reaching the ears of Gablin. She sat on a tree and heard it clearly. Cross rose up, trying to put in order in his thoughts. He took advantage of the call. The hero focused, and his call skills began to act. As if from nowhere, Goblin, ready to attack, appeared before Alba. Alba was stunned. Albert shouted when the demons hit him unexpectedly. Fleed back with a cry, he asked himself how everything happened, wondering that a monster came out of nowhere. Gablin ran to the cross, and he called it. The hero gently stroked Gablin on his head, praising for reason. She had jumped with joy. He wondered if all this was planned in advance. Cross smiled and worshipped politely, and Gablin confirmed happily. Albert asked Cross where he went to meet him face to face. He exclaimed that he was going to fight because Cross is not worthy to be a family member, but in fact, nothing. The hero's handcuffs began to change the shape, and Albert was amazed. Cross created a sword from them and stated that he still said, Albert has never been and would not become his brother. Fat realized that he had turned handcuffs into weapons. Cross brought his sword on his brother, saying loudly that Albert Beckhurst was, and would only remain his enemy. Cross strongly sent the sword on Albert. Albert calmly grabbed him for the edge and said, well. The sword began to melt. Albert exclaimed that it was time to remember the effects of disobedience on the heart of Cross. He urged the knights to kill this monster immediately. His voice was heard. Albert, burning anger, reminded that no matter what, they remain knights. They must follow his orders, even if it requires deprivation of someone. Their hands trembled. Obtained from the place, they rushed to the attack on Gablin and Rufun. In the end, they were written in pain, lying on the ground, while the demons remained intact. Albert was frightened. Cross hesitated, thinking whether they would prevent them from inconsistency in the event of their joint attack. He said that even the voice of Rufuna and Gablin scared his subordinates, and the cry, which he heard earlier, probably arose because of a demon attack. He argued that their power is superior to opponents. Albert trembled and exclaimed that Cross was not so confident, calling him a scum, and a fire broke out in his palms. He, laughing, exclaimed that their victory was guaranteed, because his ability to own fire reached the 5th level. It was recognized as the best in the world. It was side by side, and he could not lose it. Stretching his hand, he invited the fire, and the bullet flew towards the hero. The sorcerer of the earth built a wall before fire. Albert was amazed and wondered how big skill is. He realized that he needed to calm down, because, despite his numerous skills, he would not be able to overcome fiery magic. He exclaimed that it was just an earthen wall, and it would easily break from its continuous blows. Albert quickly went on the offensive, throwing fire on the wall. The whole wall was blackening from the soot, but remained intact. He could not understand why she was not collapsing. He may have thought, the level of earthly magic in Crosses exceeds the 5th. The man denied, claiming that he was only at the 3rd level. Albert could not believe what he heard and wondered, as possible, and whether it was another advantage of the divine hum. Cross inserted that everything is due to the divine skill of the hook. And was it a real cause of his persecution? His brother was in full confusion. Albert said that the ability to cross hooks is a gift from God, designed to save the upper world. He tensed. He said that demons have recently begun to appear in the upper world, and this was considered a harbinger of future events. He urged to take the cross with him home to save the upper world together. The brother continued to remain silent. Albert believed that leaning before this worthless creature was the most humiliating experience in his life. However, patience is the main virtue, and now it is only necessary to wait for the right moment to secure a slave collar on it. Cross approached him, gently called his brother, and asked to look at him. This was surprised. Suddenly the sword crashed into Albert's shoulder, and he did not even understand what had happened. He shouted. The hero explained that he was here only because he was persecuted. He said he was indifferent to what had happened to Albert, who could not stop screaming in pain. Albert thought that Cross was really going to kill him. The hero was surprised. Does his brother still think that he would believe him? He exclaimed that their father was extremely regretting and ready to pass to him the duchy and all the possessions of the Beckhurst family. Cross replied that he did not encounter it, and moved the sword even further. Albert shouted. The hero thought about his actions. He understood that if a leg was injured, he would not be able to return home. Albert pleaded to stop, crying for help. Cross also believed that the best way out would be to destroy it in place. Goblin pulled him for his clothes, and the hero calmed down. He used the magic of water and the skill of the ruler of karma. Albert asked if it was poison. Cross replied that his brother was defeated and advised to return to the upper world to report it. He warned no longer to communicate with him, because next time, there will be no mercy. He wondered, if he kill him, what will be the difference between them? He was no longer who he was before, he was just angry. The hero called the demons to go. Albert laughed when Cross, turning around, went away. He considered him a fool. Cross' confidence in victory seemed funny, because he had another trump in his sleeve. Correcting the collar, he remembered how his brother turned away from him, condemning himself to slavery and eternal repentance. Suddenly, behind his back, appeared goblins. The goblins suddenly attacked Albert, striking him to the heart. He exclaimed in despair, asking what it was a surprise and why he was not released. He shouted even louder, ordered to stop, wondering why he was undressed and whether they really think it would pass without consequences. He ordered to stop again, trying to understand what other stones were. Albert moaned with pain. The goblins brutally beat him, smashing his feet with stones. The tears flowed from his eyes, and he did not stop shouting. Cross recalled the knowledge gained at the academy. During the marriage period, Goblin could attack representatives of other races of the opposite sex. He wondered if goblins would attack him. One of them looked at them in their eyes and lifted the thumb. She smiled in the same way. Goblin, having picked up Albert, dragged him away, accompanying his actions with his loud shouts. Cross has admitted that he did not even know if this finale was good or bad. He sat on a stump and sighed. Gablin brought him a peach, and Rufuna, grapes. He asked if they collected it for him, and thanked him. The hero thoughtfully chewed the persic, thinking about the divine skill of Gachi. He noted that he was a really demonic skill, and could not even imagine how she was able to save the upper world. He wondered what would have happened to the higher world, if he was not here at that moment. He thought that if the demons attacked them, Ellis would hardly be able to do something. He was sorry for the mind left alone on their grace. Demons shouted at him in despair. He apologized. The hero reassured them, saying not to be afraid, because he did not disappear anywhere, and apologized that they had to worry. He told Goblin that it seems that the swamp woman gave her some sign. The woman was glad and ashamed, turned and covered her face with her hands. Cross noted that this day was very long. He suggested returning home. The demons were happy. The Trinity went on the road, heading toward sunset. Suddenly a loud noise came to their ears. The hero asked if he was a monster. He added that it was bad because he wants to go home as soon as possible and does not want to be unnecessary. Cross decided that time to apply his skills and investigate the situation. He used the all-agent technique and was surprised to see the cow near which the girl stood. The Cross was embarrassed because, realizing that a man was standing in front of him, he felt something strange. The girl had a sword in her hands. Tired but not broken, she desperately waved him before the monster. Tao had a huge horn that resembled a sharp sword. She brought him to a girl who had barely kept exhausted. Suddenly the cow paved. The girl closed her eyes, frightened, and then a loud sound came. She opened one eye. She noticed that Cross restrained the monster's attack. He loudly stated that he would help her and asked if she understood him. The answer was affirmative. The hero exclaimed that he was wonderful, and called Goblin and Rufuna to come to the rescue. The monster was defeated and 200 points lit up above it. The girl thanked for the help, but Cross replied that it was a trifle and not worth attention. He noticed that she looked like a dizziness, and asked if everything was fine. The girl began to answer, but trembled very much. The hero noted that she looks pale, and asked to suffer a little. He applied his skills to help. He was extremely surprised when he learned that she was poisoned by a deadly substance. He called the girl loudly not to give up and assured that he would prepare the medicine immediately. She lay on the ground. The hero emphasized that it is an antidote that she should drink, and that he will certainly help. The girl took a sip of mug, and on her face appeared a clear relief. She noted that the drink was delicious, and the unpleasant sensations disappeared. Cross praised him thoughtfully, calling it wonderful. The girl confessed that it for the first time tastes such delicious healing. The hero thought that she still remained human. He felt that neither human or demonic energy was manifested in the use of this skill. He asked if she was a person. She seemed puzzled and raised her hood. She removed him that all sorts of doubts immediately dispelled. The girl asked if she looked like a person. The hero was amazed. She declared herself the Queen of Goblin. She asked if she was the Queen of Goblin, to which the girl nodded back. He thought that sometimes inhuman races are born with mutations that give them special abilities. Such individuals are called kings or queens. They are intended to continue and defend their kind. He learned all these details at the academy. "This is an inhuman girl," he said. In the meantime, she said she had one request for him. The Goblin Queen asked if he could help her save her village. The hero wondered what help was. The queen said that their village, located at the foot of the mountain, suddenly attacked poisonous creatures. They managed to escape, but many residents of the village were still exposed to poison. The girl, an alarming voice, warned that they would all die without help and begged to save them. Cross stopped in indecision. He noted that it is too dangerous to move the forest in such darkness. Using the magic of light, it lightened the forest with bright rays. The hero wondered how many inhabitants were poisoned. Queen Goblin, amazed at brightness, replied, "About 10. He thought and said that he would have to buy the ingredients for the antidote. The girl was puzzled. She asked if he was going to help them this way. Cross replied that he did not see the reasons to give up, and is ready to save them at any cost. He appealed to Gablin and Rufins to take a little more stroll, which they willingly agreed. At that time, Queen Goblin trembled. She sincerely thanked the Cross, assuring that he would always remember his kindness. He replied that it did not deserve excessive attention, but hinted that he could ask something in response. She wondered whether she was talking about land and work. The hero expressed his desire to equip a new base in their village, and noted that in his absence, they could add a way there, for which he was ready to pay. He asked what she thinks about it. Queen Goblin agreed, saying that everyone in the village would be adopted. The hero went on the road. The girl asked if she could tell her name. He finally gathered with his thoughts and replied that his name is Cross, and his companions, Goblin and Rufin. He wondered what her name. The girl replied that her name is Libya. She noted that he was very strong, but would be pleased to collaborate with the Cross. In the upper world, rumors have spread that Albert Backhurst has recently traveled to the lower world. Mina remembered that it was the brother of Cross, the former bride of Ellis, and asked if she knew about it. Ellis replied that she was only interested in Cross, and in general, the word former was superfluous here. Mina said that the Missicilian family also intended to send troops to the lower world. But because of the sharp increase in the number of demons, priority began to protect the upper world, which is why they are from Ellis here. Ellis noted that she was hoping to solve the problem and asked why this place was so significant. She asked if this Cross returned, or how he was called there. Mine replied that no, and they seemed to have lost it from sight, although they were already following his trace. Ellis wondered the answer to the mine, and asked if this was indeed concerning the Backhurst family. It turned out that her Cross was alive, and it was incredibly pleased. She asked why the menu was so tense, noting that you could not rush, because the selected Ryfield troops would definitely return the Cross back. Ellis wondered if she agreed. She answered why she should be indifferent, adding that he would not return whatever they did. She was only worried that life in the lower world was extremely uncomfortable. Ellis wondered if Minyo was going to change the Cross, and whether everything was so easy. Minyo confirmed that she is right. She noted that if she dares to go back, it could not be back. At this point, Cross has collected 10 poisonous needles of bees and 5 teeth of teeth. He noted that this should be enough. Olivia thanked him for the assistance in the collection of materials, noting that she had already discussed it with him and others. Cross noted that she had recently recovered, so she could relax. In addition, it seemed that Goblin and Rufuna wanted battles. They walked the night forest. The hero was thinking that he had never previously encountered such a painful adventure in the upper world, but now it is behind. He believed that his ability to interact with the hook was excellent, but to improve it had to constantly conquer new monsters. It was not easy, because there were skills that he could not master on his own. Libya said she wanted to test the Cross system. They were already looking at the village. As soon as they approached, the goblins began to wander around and shouted loudly into fog. Libya searched for her. Suddenly, one of them pointed his finger and exclaimed that he had to look. They noticed Libya. Goblin, seeing her, exclaimed the name, glad that she was safe. All the time they thought about her sudden disappearance and asked if she realized how much they worried. But she apologized, reminding that she left them a note. They expressed their concern loudly and asked that she thought when she decided to go there alone, enduring herself in the danger of poisoning. Olivia said she could read her notations then, because this man saved her from poisoning. She pointed to the cross. Goblin wondered who this savior, who made such a miracle, she exclaimed, asking if it was a person and what a person could do here. Libya asked the boys to calm down. She noted that she was not an ordinary man, but a savior who performed the miracle of the cross. Goblin explained that people drove them into the lower world. Libya added that the past is no longer corrected, but now the most important thing is to save the residents of the village. The goblins agreed and called for Cross to approach, calling him a man. The goblins lay on the floor with rags on their heads, looking completely exhausted. Libya returned to Gopso. She reassured him that everything would be fine, and she reached out to him. Goblin, swallowing, felt surprising. He said he was feeling well. Goblinsha exclaimed that everything was fine with him, and, with tears of joy, she rushed into his arms, confessing how much she worked. One of the goblins noted that this is a real miracle. Goblins apologized to Cross for disrespect, recognizing him as a true savior of the village, because it was he who healed them all. Libya noted that after the end of treatment, they planned to go further, advising Gobzo a little rest. Goblin exclaimed to Libya that she was always doing so again, and this time it is too selfish. The girl begged forgiveness. She later told Crosses that she was her home, and there was a place for guests, so she invited him to stay. She stressed that she would like to have dinner for him in honor of arrival, but should take responsibility for leaving the village. Cross was gratitude for the bed. He looked around, admiring not only the appearance, but also the interior. Although the bed was just a bunch of leaves, make sure that everyone was already sleeping, he decided to lie down too. The day was a long and full martial arts. He decided to rest a little, and use the ability to create objects, make potions and water magic. So he created a glass and energy potion. The hero wondered that the skills are not activated when he spends time on their name. Even if he looks back, he cannot afford now to think about creating objects. He looked at the burning candle. Closing his eyes, he focused on extinguishing the fire. Opening his eyes, the hero realized that nothing had changed. Lying on the letter, he decided that time to rest. Cross was thinking about the skills, demons, hook, half-life, and the border of the lower world. He thought that there were many more terms that he did not understand. The morning in the village came brightly and unexpectedly. The goblins were enthusiastically viewed, impressed with an unprecedented event. In their eyes, a house was instantly formed in the air. He was as impressed with his complexity and sophistication as human homes. Cross reported that he planned to restore their homes, destroyed during the attack, and asked if it would be appropriate to rebuild them in the previous form. The goblins were surprised to ask if it was true. Cross wondered if there were data on further attacks of these creatures. The goblins expressed gratitude to the Cross. Livy noted that the skill of Cross is extraordinary, to which he replied that it was just his skill. He asked if Olivia was able to cook. She confirmed and noted that she was already going to call him. The hero noticed a little crab, and thought out how delicious it was possible to cook from him sashimi. He added that you can cook wonderful soup from the remains. Libya was surprised to ask if she was really talking about sashimi and soup. She wondered what it was. Goblins also discussed among themselves that they did not know what it was. Cross explained that when the meat is cooked in this way, adding salt, it has a special taste. The girl asked about the salt, confessing that she had not known about her existence before. Trying, she noted that it was delicious and unsurpassed. Cross replied that I was glad to hear it. She noted that he knew a lot, and besides, she is able to exercise with that iron bowl that no one in the village even dare to look. The hero watched the goblins washed. One of them stood on the table and watered with the other water. They were indignant, asked to make water warmer, and he angrily answered them with silence because he could not focus on such a noise. The hero asked this goblin if he was able to use magic. Olivia confirmed, adding that they also have other magical abilities. She noted that he was only able to control water magic. Cross noted that you can then use a bath to reduce the load on the magicians. The girl asked what it was. He used blacksmith skills and said that, for example, you could make such a bath. Libya was surprised. She said, That's why it is, and asked how to use it. Cross felt embarrassment. He did not understand that it was wrong with this village. The night came. Ross wondered in Gablin and Rufun's whether they live in such a dog Buddha. They confirmed. It seemed to him that they were still a monster, and he wondered if they could settle in such a quiet place. The hero gladly noted that he did not rest on such a soft bed for a long time, as if he were literally soaring in the air. He expressed his desire that Libya would allow him to convert his home, and stressed that he would like to be even more comfortable for a bed. He noted that sashimi and soup are non-dishes. Of course, he did not want to have a biased attitude, but it was quite strange. Olivia asked if he was sleeping. He wondered if she was, and heard the objection. She opened the door. The girl, dressed in a light nightshirt, jumped sharply, crossing the wasteland. Libya was extremely confused. The hero asked what happened. She bowed low, and as the head of the village, expressed gratitude for everything he did. She explained that thanks to the cross, the standard of living in the village has increased significantly. The hero in response noted that there was a lot of work ahead. Libya stated that as a leader is responsible for the protection of the village, but if the situation does not improve, she is ready to intervene. Cross advised not to be so pessimistic. The girl carefully sat on his bed and confessed that she had one request. The hero, not understanding the situation, looked at her in surprise. She returned to him. Libya asked if he did not want to marry her. It was unclear to both of them. Cross was surprised to look at Libya. He finally realized why she was so dressed. For her, obviously, this was not surprising. To spend the night in one bed with a boy. The girl, slightly discounted, returned to him and suggested that they secure their agreement. She suddenly fell on the bed. Cross exclaimed to her, asking if she was fine with her, and assuring that she did not force her to something. The girl replied that she was unable to do it. The hero assured that she should do nothing, and if there is a problem, she can always tell him about it. He asked about an alliance with werewolves. The left noted that the union is only formality, and they seek to keep them under control. She added that there was a threat because of a recent outbreak of monsters, so they needed offspring from goblins capable of connecting with other races. She noted that if everything remains unchanged, the werewolves would soon capture their land. Cross decided that it was because of this organized wedding ceremony. He apologized, and noted that he did not like marriages, and some other circumstances would not allow them to have a wedding. Olivia sat upset. He threw his jacket on her. The hero stated that he could not ignore the fact that she and her Moultons were in a difficult situation, and promised to help them. Libya was embarrassed, and tears splashed in her eyes. She hugged the cross and expressed her gratitude. The hero asked if she could dress. She apologized that he saw her in such an outfit that she usually did not wear, and asked not to think badly about her. The cross assured that he did not think anything like that, and asked her to calm down. He thought of the causes of their decline, realizing that the clan and the village could disappear without changes. The cross turned to Libya, which immediately answered. It seemed to him that the outfit was extremely radical. He thought about him and asked the girl whether she was fond of fashion or something like. The girl replied that considering it in this way, she had no particular interest. Livy said that the masters once did, but now they are not, so no one has created clothes, and the village has lost interest over time. Cross was impressed with the hard. That's how it is, he said. The girl became aware that her clothes had inherited from ancestors, and she did not mind wearing it. Cross thought that the peasants seemed not very aware. Despite the skills of armed and farm guns, only the home of Libya was equipped. It seemed to him that their technologies had no continuity. There were many technologies in the upper world except weapons that could teach. But here it seemed that technologies had disappeared. He suggested that he test sewing and asked if she wanted to try. The girl was amazed. She wore new clothes. Olivia noted that he looks great. The hero replied that he was glad that she liked. The girl wondered if he could leave him. He said without hesitation that, of course. She was very satisfied. The characters gathered in the house. The wolf came to them. He gladly noted that Libya joined them. It was the king of Vovkuka's Orphea. He and Cross were exchanging views. The girl noticed Orphea that a lot of time had passed since their last meeting. He, returning to the conversation, added that her arrival means consent to the union. Libya responded with a refusal, and categorically stated that she did not want to talk about it. The werewolf, as if not fully heard her words, repeated his proposal to make sure that he understood correctly. He asked if she came to the union, and whether it was true. The girl denied, saying that, as she mentioned, she did not want to discuss it. Other werewolves also went to the house. Orpheus noted that in this situation you will not correct anything. He shouted to the boys that they would grasp the weapon. All were heading to the goblin village. Cross advised to wait a little. Orpheus looked at him in surprise and asked who he was. The hero replied that he is a cross, and although he is a man, but something owed to the village of Goblin for some reason. The boys discussed what case she led this man to the lower world. The hero assured that their goal is not a struggle. On the contrary, they seek to form an alliance on equal terms. Orpheus doubted the conclusion of an equal union, sarcastically stating that he was not laughing. According to him, proud wolves cannot be equal to the goblins. The wolves agreed with him, offering Majesty the opportunity to kill them. They surrounded the heroes, and Libya turned to the cross. They looked threatening. Orpheus saw Goblin and the wolf and decided it could not be true. He asked who gave this monster a magical name. Cross was surprised. He wondered what the magical name was. Livy replied that it was a cross, because unlike others, he owned many strength. And giving names for him is how to have breakfast. Tot stopped the girl, asking her to explain what a magical name is. He was surprised that she had already given such a name to two creatures without knowing its true meaning. She explained that the magical name is a special title given to the chosen creatures in certain circumstances. Its owner immediately feels strengthening of various abilities. Tot confirmed that this is how it is. He asked if the left name was Charming. Orpheus explained that he considers him a representative of Goblin, and that is why he challenges the duel. He added that if he wins, the goblins will take action, and only they will be able to give them magical names. The left shouted that these agreements are one-sided. Cross agreed and wondered what would happen if you win. Orpheus noted that he has full freedom of action and can discuss it separately. He proclaimed himself the king of the inverted Orpheus, and the representative of the goblins. Cross announced the duel. Olivia asked Cross for forgiveness. What he asked what was the matter. She replied that because of her actions, all the fault lay on him. The hero reassured her, saying that it was not necessary to worry, because her name became a coin, and it is good that everything did not come to the war. He said he did not want to look fool and tolerate one-sided use. The girl turned to him and took him by her hand. She wished him luck, and the wolf loudly announced the beginning. Orpheus laughed loudly, and gathering with his forces jumped forward, drawing the first powerful blow. Cross stepped back, but cleverly evaded. The werewolf snapped again, but the hero had already jumped up. He did not realize how he succeeded. He waved his sword closely, but the cross skillfully evaded. The werewolves discussed why he skillfully evades all the attacks of their king, and that he could not impress him. Orpheus exclaimed that it was in vain to try if Cross decided to exhaust it, underestimating the physical strength of the wolves. The hero remembered that he had not fought on his sword for a long time, but his body remembered the lessons of the aristocratic school. He realized that he was not in his favor. It is necessary to remain calm to restore control of the situation. Orpheus shouted loudly, waving his sword. The hero felt the time to act. Having used the martial arts, he struck the wand on the turn of the werewolf, the one that held the sword. Orpheus's hands were in the blood when the cross knocked his sword easily. He was ready for attack. The hero rushed forward, grabbing a wolf for his hair, and he was immediately numb. The audience was already celebrating the victory, claiming that it was impossible and that Mr. Orpheus lost. The werewolf begged for death, confessing that he had been engulfed by an intellected shame that did not give the right to life. Cross asked if someone intended to kill him, which was surprised by Orpheus. The hero mentioned that Orpheus declared his ability to do everything if he wins. The meaning was that he wanted Orpheus, who survived, made an alliance with them, goblins, on equal terms. Cross confessed that he felt ashamed not for the desire to survive, but for the desire to leave his people and die first. The wolves, with the groan, recognized the truth that he was considered the only legal heir to their line, and if Lord the King leaves them, how to live without him. Orpheus returned to them with compressed fists. He struck one of the wolves and ordered not to show weakness. He faded with pain in response. Orpheus turned to Cross, addressing him as his boss. Orpheus declared the boys that today Cross has become their new leader. They were skeptical, but the hero asked him to give him a word. He explained that he did not intend to be their leader, and wondered if it was so easy to prevent them from considering him a boss. He was approached by Libya, captured by his previous words, and promised her loyalty. Cross noted that she felt the same, and how quickly everything was changing. Everyone was shouting loudly that he was their leader and leader. Tot just cheered his eyebrows, considering their words too simple. He stated that he would not become their leader. However, Cross noted that if the werewolves and goblins conclude the alliance in this way, it will be justified, and then he really has to become their leader. Cross said Orpheus that Libya should not marry him. Orpheus, suddenly realizing the issue, agreed, but again asked what was being talked about. He noted that he was not going to create a family. The girl asked in surprise whether she was offered it when talking about the alliance. Vovkulak explained that he only needed strong warriors, and once he had heard about the fighting power of Queen Goblin. His companion was amazed. The girl exclaimed that she made a mistake again, turning herself into a tragic heroine. Cross noted that the result came out well. He asked the power of the warrior, thinking whether it was due to demons in the lower world. Orpheus. He was surprised and gave a negative answer. He noted that he needed more soldiers for some purposes. Closing his fist, Cross asked if he could reveal the essence of these goals. Orpheus replied that what he was about to talk about is about the horrific past of Darren. This is the story of one military wolf that blinded through their sins. One of the goblins was doubted whether everything is fine in Cross and Libya. The other noted that the two could not fail the task, or is it possible? Suddenly Goblin ran to them, shouting about the danger. He reported that a flock of Vovklak was moving to their village. He was asked if this means that Cross and Libya were killed. The wolves approached the village. They all bowed and apologized to the goblins for the possible inconvenience, which caused the shock in those. He told that they once lived in the village, located further north. His father was their king and had to decide who would become his successor. However, the father suddenly died or was killed, not having time to declare his brother Verde by the heir. The werewolf said his father had taken his name to the plate, declaring him a heir. Upon learning of this, his brother resorted to rage and killed him without hesitation. That another brother accused him of killing their father, and they even tried to execute him. The wolves discussed that their boss was a man of principles that treated them as if to their own. Orpheus confirmed that this man was really fair. He was barely avoiding death when the boys from the group of his father came to the rescue, and thanks to this, managed to escape. He noted that at first he had to explain everything, otherwise they were at risk of struck, holding it. Cross put his hand on his shoulder, saying that they should not worry because they created an alliance. Tot replied that he appreciated it. The hero suggested that they do business and think about the organization of their life. The first thing he mentioned was the problem of demarcation that had already arisen before. The goblins did not understand what it was about. Cross apologized to the goblins for the unexpected appearance of the tribe of werewolves. The goblins were stunned. Orpheus suggested that he and his boys a job that would help correct the situation. One of the goblin wanted to give up, but the other noted that if Mrs. Libya and Cross did not mind, he agrees. They smiled. Cross reported that he is now going to the western part for research. Goblin wondered whether this means that Crossmaster was going to use his skills to build a home. The hero denied, saying that the werewolves themselves cut down trees and build their homes. Goblin was surprised. Cross noted that some are able to build. The Turn Girl greeted, saying that she could only draw plans, though she does not reach the level of Cross, but will still help with construction. The hero stated that he now wants her and her team to be engaged in construction in the village. They can also use other skills such as cooking, farming, and sewing to develop this place. The goblins discussed this idea because they did not even think about it before, and they really liked it. They asked loudly if they could help. Everyone joined. Someone mentioned that first you needed to cut the firewood. Goblins gladly agreed. Together with the werewolves, they took up the felling of trees and construction of the house. The evening was already coming, and Cross suggested to celebrate friendship between goblins and werewolves. Everyone happily shouted, "Hooray! Zrenia, podnять bokale." Having located on the carpets, the guests enjoyed the festive feast. Libya looked around. The man said that the right moment had come, and suggested that everyone pay attention to what was happening here. Queen Goblin and King of Vovkukiv learned that he was going to give them a name. A few hours ago, Olivia asked the hero to listen to her. The man asked what happened. She replied that she had an urgent request. After deciding, Olivia stated that she knew how difficult it was, but asked to give them a charming name. He replied that he did not deny and suggested to start. Orpheus was surprised by the reaction rate. Libya asked if he was sure, because as they say, it was a rather confusing ritual. The hero calmly noted that everything is just simple. He would just give them names. He wondered if they wanted to leave the magical name as it is. Orpheus answered and asked to save him. The girl added that she also wanted to remain Olivia. The hero thought for a moment and said that tonight they would hold a ceremony in their eyes to everyone to give them magical names. Now Orpheus was on his knees in front of him. Chris appealed to King Vovkulak and announced that he was now sanctioning the use of Orpheus as his magical. The name on the screen was surprised in the wolves. Rising, he exclaimed with enthusiasm that suddenly flashed in his body. Cross has announced that he is now granting the queen to the magic name of Libya. After that, he solemnly recorded this name, Pearl Rose. She remembered the words of Queen Goblin that her appearance could change after receiving a new name and decided to try. However, after Libya, she realized that nothing had changed. Sorry, she asked Cross whether it was true that she had not changed. He disagreed and said with a smile that their status grew significantly. Thanks to her, Cross apologized to everyone for the delay and reported that they would give everyone magical names. Goblins and wolves were amazed. They asked if they would give them too. The hero confidently replied, "Of course." He stressed that they will all build a village together, and the status of each inhabitant should be high. Everyone fell into a cry, insisting that they were called first. He reassured them, urging them to rush and queue. In the world on the surface, the king ordered his heads raised. Representatives of the 3 duchies stood in front of the king. He expressed his desire to discuss current events with each of them. He first turned to Beckhurst's house. Father Cross replied with the fear that Albert was still missing. But they are doing their best in the current environment. The king angrily noted that he was interested in others and asked if the cross was returning. He ordered the search unit to be sent immediately, to which the Duke Beckhurst noted that there were too many demons around to cope with them. The Duke Rayfield returned to the king and stated that to successfully return the cross, it was necessary to send Alice. However, the Duke of Massilian noted that the mine is better because it can independently explore the underworld. The king, however, denied both proposals. He noted that Alice is currently protecting the royal city, using their skills from the underground temple, but they cannot still be sure that more powerful demons will not be attacked in the future. The father shouted that Minau had enough strength to protect the upper world and asked to send LSB. Mina's father stressed that the upper world needs Miss LS's skills and will send Mina to search in the lower world. Others were hotly denied, not wanting to allow danger, but Mina thoughtfully ignored their arguments. She thought when she would meet Cross again. At this time, in the underworld, Cross did not persecute Olivia to keep track of the enemy more closely. He warned that after each stroke of her sword, the body recedes back. But the girl did not stop and struck. The bloody monster lay on the ground. The girl exclaimed that she succeeded. The hero replied that it was good. He thought about how charming names gave all the peasants and teach them the art of hunting and possession of weapons. Cross confessed that he did not expect such success in the left skills. The girl replied that it was a surprise for her. According to her, the Goryansky monkeys have terrorized the goblin tribes for many years, and she could not believe that the charming name made it so easy to overcome them. Goblin reported Libya that they found unknown mushrooms. The girl reacted, and the goblins noticed that she reminded them of old Olivia again. This caused surprise to everyone. Goblin noted that from the moment Lady Libya met with Cross, she began to laugh more often and more fun than a little girl. He asked Cross to stay support for her. The hero agreed without hesitation. The hero asked for expectations and wondered if she knew how to eat monkey meat. Toph replied that no, and it did not like her. The monstra was written 300 points. The girl wondered if everything was fine. The hero was surprised, but quickly replied that yes. He wondered why others did not see points for victory over enemies. He noted that they still could not stay there, and suggested that the hunting continue. Cross said it was impossible. The night came, and the hero returned home. He was overwhelmed by uncertainty. He saw 15,000 points on gacha screen, and has already accumulated 33 gacha attempts. Cross hesitated because he did not remember how he earned these points, because the figure appeared the day when Olivia killed a demon. He wondered if it was possible to convey the creatures that magical names were conveyed to him. Was not sure how serious it was. The hero decided to remain calm because if his level is not understood accurately, he will receive only 1 point. Cross decided that until everything was settled, he would give up as if he had noticed anything, and quickly put in order. Suddenly, the left entered the room and asked him for a conversation. Frightened, Cross was loudly asked what had happened. The girl wondered if he was busy, to which the hero replied that no, just watching the screen of the hook. He said that on the hook screen, he asked if Olivia could see it. But she replied that she saw nothing. She asked if she would interfere with him if she looked. Cross agreed, but deducted it with doubt that he would doubt whether she would understand what was happening. The girl noted that, when she was near him, she begins to understand something. This caused the inconvenience in Cross. Suddenly, her attention was attracted by the hook screen, which caused a great surprise. She hurried to share this with the Cross. He asked if it was true. Libya suggested that it happened because she touched him. The hero calmed down and decided that he could now show what the hook is. The girl got on his knees. He asked her what it means. She apologized and asked him to explain what the hook was. Cross, a little discorded, agreed. He wondered if he was not some special custom. After yesterday's events, he decided that it was better not to ask too much questions. The heroes were offered to make the first 11 approaches in the press. Suddenly, a bright flash appeared, and the balloons were hanging in the air. Libya was amazed. She asked if it was the same hook that giving skills. She noticed how bright and beautiful it looked, and the rainbow balls resembled valuable gems. Cross advised to catch one, and as soon as she touched the ball, she shone. I was informed that the balls began to glow. He replied that the bullets from this gacha have different levels of rarity. Rainbow, gold, silver, and bronze, and the best skills belong to rainbow balls. The bullet became the skill of the call. The girl asked what a call. The hero explained that it is a skill that instantly evokes contract demons. He explained that the joyful sphere provides improved skills on a monthly basis, and in May, he has already received 3 different arbitrary skills. Olivia wondered if they needed to rotate the sphere if they were already. Cross denied that the bonuses and effects accumulated, but the maximum requires 4 areas. The girl wanted to get acquainted with other skills. Cross proposed to show them all at the same time, and the spheres shone. Deeply impressed with the unexpected number of skills, the hero explained that the steel spheres are designed to improve abilities, silver for technologies, and gold for magical skills. The exception is iridescent colors, which seem to have no restrictions on the level. The more you collect, the more you grow. More skills have appeared in the air. Livy asked about new skills, and had not been before. Cross confirmed that they were indeed, and it increased the level of many useful skills. So the results were wonderful. The girl with annoyance asked if the results became worse. The hero denied and said it was wrong. He added that he spent time and was very fun to deal with the hook with Libya. She said with a smile that she was also advice. Cross returned to her, but the girl remained silent. She fell asleep on his knees. Libya has always been assembled, playing the role of the head, but with the arrival of Cross began to look like a real child of her age. He suggested that she may have played gacha and felt fatigue, so she decided to give her rest, putting in the bed. The night came. There was a delusions. The Orpheus team met with others. They asked impatiently if those came to create an alliance. Their leader warned not to compare him with that wolf on the poster. He noted that although it offers an alliance, but the only condition, they must obey it. He threateningly stated that they now had a choice: to become his slaves, or to meet death right here. Cross noted that it is likely that it is followed by a huge snake that slipped here, leaving clear traces. To prepare for the battle with the wolves from the north, the team decided to gather on the hook in that area. Cross asked Orpheus if they had already reached the territory of the northern wolves. Orpheus denied, assured that he should not worry. The hero wondered whether there were Vovklakam near the village, and suggested that he could form an alliance with them. Orpheus noted that the opportunity to create a settlement is a valuable idea for thinking. He expressed the opinion that there is probably a mucus tribe. The huge snake raced mucus, already outlining the mouth. Orpheus jumped upwards, swinging his sword. The blade of his knife was embedded in the snake. Exclaiming, he ordered her to attack. The snake was only a step from grabbing mucus with its jaws. Olivia, without spending time, aimed at a snake and shouted loudly. The blades were deep into the head of the snake, and blood was splashed around. The snake squeezed with pain, and then fell away. Olivia addressed the mucus to the question of whether everything is fine. He nodded in the affirmative and thanked her sincerely. Cross turned to her with annoyance. A girl appeared from the middle of the mucus. He wondered if she was also mucus. The girl confirmed this and, in turn, asked about him. The hero said that he is actually a person, but he deals with problems in the neighboring village of Goblin. Libya added that she is one of the Queen of Goblin. She pointed to Orpheus and noted that it was not all. The girl was very scared. She screamed, asking if they were the same werewolves. Astra waited for someone, but Slime exclaimed that he was about to kill them. Slime told that the wolf tribe that offered them the union tried to weave intrigues from the outset. Many of their people were killed, the villages were burned completely, and now they were forced to hide. Orpheus acknowledged that it was all through him, and if he had strength, Cross thought for a moment. Turning to Slice, he asked for a service, to organize an alliance with them. She thought for a moment, but eventually agreed. Sleazy stated that she accompanied them to the village, noting that they did not look the worst people. She added that their fate in the village would depend on the leader's decision. Orpheus apologized and confessed that it was through him that Slisniuk hated him. The latter asked if it was true that he was in no way guilty. He stressed that it is worth focusing more on the future than to dive into the past, which is no longer changing. He asked if there was a village in one of these caves. Sliniuk denied, explaining that the village ahead, and the cave has many levels and several exits, which makes it the perfect place for the hiding place. The hero realized that he would make efforts to get caught by surprise. At the end of the cave, the light flicked. They came out. Slime said it was their native village, although it was in fact a big mire. The branches of the trees are placed slims, looking carefully at the heroes. They did not understand what was happening. Some of them argued that he saw people, demons, and holy creatures. And here, unexpectedly, one of them exclaimed that he probably saw a wolf, and he was definitely. They shouted loudly, "Get out of here!" and then spanned, demanding destroying them so that they did not know their presence. Without quenching, repeated calls for murder again. The girl asked them to calm down, standing in front of the characters. She asked who this man was. She noted, just to make it clear that their presence here was undesirable. She noted that she was grateful to them for the salvation of her people. She talked about a man expelled from the upper world who sought to unite inhumanates and demons, and asked what he had intentions. Cross replied that the union was as long as the northern wolves were threatened. He believed that they should unite and ask, or, Sophia reassured, saying that they knew about their concern about werewolves in the camp, and assured he would never hurt peaceful people, and was sure that they can help. The girl answered that she understands the causes of their hatred of werewolves. She noted that, among other things, people hate people. She was amazed and asked. She wanted to find out if he was from the upper world, and whether he had ever heard of Aquafield. He answered in the affirmative, adding that he had heard a lot about him, because this place was famous for the stability of the waterways throughout the year, was a key logistics center. At first glance, it looks like a perfect and beautiful place. The girl said that this utopia was created, exploiting them, slugs as slaves. On rainy days, all the mucous membranes were holding floods together, and some of them were forced to do horrible things. She noted that they lived as unbroken slaves, and gradually acquired self-awareness, so it is natural that they decided to escape. She wondered whether he imagined how they managed to escape. Ross asked if they had something in the country like a magical circle for transitions. The girl shook her head, saying that they just fell into the river. The hero could not believe. She confessed that they had no idea where to go on. Hiding from the view of the guards, she rushed along the river until she broke from the majestic waterfall. The next one in memory was how it was thrown ashore. She asked if it was irony. The girl answered that she thought that she could forget everything in a place where there were no people, but her body turned into something inhuman. One of them touched her face. The girl confessed that she told everything she had to, and asked if they were now understanding why they were despite people. Roz replied that she could hate him as much as you like. But when the northern wolves attack, their attitude will be as cruel as it, or even worse. The girl noted that they made mistakes because they were already deceived. However, she stressed that if they make every effort, they would not be defeated. She explained that their magical stability is low, so they rely on physical attacks, which in some way will be an advantage. He wondered that if they were more serious, their enemies would not be so powerful. She may not have expressed it aloud, but he felt exactly what it was in her mind. Then he asked if she did not want to unite with them. She replied that she did not intend to create an alliance. It does not want to complicate the situation, interfering, because they will cope with the problem of wolves. So she suggested avoiding unnecessary intersections. The hero thought, it means that they are neutral. He heard him and understood him. He said that he was angry, and the girl said she was Sufi. They shook their hands. In the village, the logs were connected, and the Wolk girl, occupied by construction, wondered, "Isn't the wall?" He reported that he would like something strong, preferably from a stone, but she did not have the right skills. He also noted that he needed a tower with sharp ends. The girl replied that she understood. He added that it would be good to have a high tower from which you can see. The girl said she would try. She asked if the war was about to begin. The hero replied that this is not accurate, but it is better to prepare, so he asked everyone to get to work. Everyone agreed. He noted that those who are skilled will take turns to be overseen by the mucus village, as it is in greater danger than they. Although they promised not to interfere with each other, he insisted that new losses should be avoided. Everyone agreed. The heroes also noted the need to create new weapons and asked the Bogoblin masters to take up the case that caused everyone to have a high mood, and everyone willingly started work. Cross said he was currently going to help with fortifications. Orpheus turned to him. He noted that he needed the help of crossing with him. "Have you been surprised when you saw them?" They fought on swords. Orpheus was defeated. He asked the hero again, and he replied that the rush would only hurt him to master the necessary knowledge. All agreed to continue after a short break. The werewolf confessed that he gave him a magical name, and now feels significantly elevated. However, his thoughts were constantly returning to his brother. He said he would never forget his brother looked at him after the murder of their father, and that one should not become like a brother. Stated that he could not win him. Cross thought a little. Suddenly, the idea was sleeping. He asked if they had some preparation in fencing. Orpheus replied that he did not, but added that he was learning to own a self-defense sword. Livy said that they did not even have what they called fencing. Cross asked Orpheus if he noticed something special in their duels. Orpheus noted that he noticed unusual agility in Cross. The hero confirmed this and added that this is the art of fencing. He noted that he combined practical skills with magical abilities. He noted that, for example, he uses fiery magic to increase the reaction and speed of attacks. Orpheus was surprised to ask if it was possible, and the idea appeared that the water sword could predict the actions of the enemy, as the stream flows, and overcome it with one blow. Livy was amazed that the opponent's movements are just incredible. Cross noted that usually to master all 4 skills, it is necessary to learn fencing. But because of lack of time, he suggested focusing on the styles in which they are already skilled. Libya agreed with his proposal. The hero turned to Orpheus. He confessed to his doubts whether he could cope with the task. He said that he always had problems with magic, and still fought only with the help of power. He was not sure whether he could justify his expectations. He exclaimed that he still seeks to stop the crimes of his brother and take revenge on his father and friends, and there is nothing wrong with that. He then asked him to teach him the art of possessing his sword. The brother assured Orpheus not to worry, assuring that he would be the greatest of all werewolves. At this point, Beckhurst on the Earth's surface. The Duke of Beckhurst shouted from shock. He asked if Albert really stole goblins from the underworld. According to other sources, it happened. According to the witness that he escaped that night, Albert was undressed, beaten with stones on his feet, and tightened far into the forest. The father could not believe it and trembled with the whole body. The father had a foam from his mouth. Crossbrother was very worried about him. He urged him to calm down and return to his senses. Leon, the 4th son of the Beckhurst dynasty, came to them. He said Albert told him a secret plan, which now turned on a shame for the Beckhurst family. Together with him and the cross became the subject of ridicule. He heard they only went with their knights, and it looked quite funny, like beginners from lower steps, rushing with elongated guns. He asked if he had radio. Malnus turned to the maid. She replied that Lord Lion Beckhurst was right. The girl smiled, but suddenly Leon gave her a slap with all force. It remained silent. He asked how long she was planning to stay in the human image. She apologized to him. The girl's look has changed. She has ears and tail. Someone called it a fox and asked not to take human form when they were left alone. He warned that he would kill again if she violates this rule. The Vane apologized. He then asked about the readiness of the stones. The fox answered in the affirmative, having reported that they were all ready. She explained that they temporarily reinforce magic in his body and are extremely powerful magic stones. Leon took one in his hands. She added that these stones are able to neutralize the harmful elements from the lower worlds, and was convinced that they live the expectations of Leon. He asked her how much she remembers that cross. Marnus replied that, in her opinion, that cross was his brother, but with all respect, she knows nothing more. Leon thought that even Lissa, with her wealth of magical knowledge, cannot withstand a slave collar. She was once an official, so he feared she would try something strange. However, in her opinion, his fears were groundless. He promised to return tomorrow and bring Cross back home, asking her to prepare everything for it. The girl agreed, adding that she hopes to see his master of this house when he returns. Leon shouted, ordering her to silence, stating that it would no longer need her and that she would disappear. Marnus apologized and left. Leon boiled from rage. He dreamed of becoming a leader and considered it only an inevitable consequence of his aspirations. He shouted that he would be waiting for his victory, and the humiliation he would return thousands. Academy. The students discussed lively. Master Leon from Gausbeckhurst plans to make a demonstration fight with the Cross. At the same time, they thought, if the brother of Cross is the most powerful in the knighthood, then the Cross itself should be even more powerful. He suggested that time to start. All students froze from shock. They discussed the defeat of Master Leon, hinting at his possible illness. Someone stopped the interlocutor, reminding that Leon could hear them. It was said that unfortunately, Leon was missing skills. A new gate has appeared in the underworld. Cross noted that this is enough today. We werewolves, feeling fatigue, said that he had more than usual today. He was told that he was not alone. Cross turned to Orpheus, noting that his style of possession of the fire sword was becoming more accurate, and asked if the time had come. He replied to it. No, not yet. He added that the catastrophic energy produced by his brother leaves no gap, and if it appears, he will immediately absorb it. The hero noted that a little too late to ask this question, but still wondered what purpose his brother pursues. Whether he is about to take possession of the whole region. Orpheus replied that he may want to resist the inhuman in the north, because the farther north, the stronger the demons and inhumans. The brothers made the method follow him because of the threat of violence or fear. Some of the wolves have betrayed him, but he is convinced that most obey his brother because of fear and lack of choice. Cross reacted, noting that he understood it. He assured that he would help them if it were in his power. It jumped by Orpheus by surprise. The hero wondered what was the matter. The man replied that he thought that Cross was not at all. The hero asked if it was really the case. Orpheus looked up to the sky. He remembered how his brother was good and strong in his youth. It surprised Cross. He asked if it was true. The werewolf confirmed and added that he was a good brother. The hero was surprised because it was unexpected. Orpheus confessed that he did not know when he went crazy. Maybe everything happened too quickly and repeatedly. Cross noted that perhaps if they found out the reason why all this happened, they would be able to stop all these meaningless battles. In response, he will hear that then may be a chance to start living a normal life again. Cross intervened in the conversation, but Orpheus remained silent, urging to forget about it. He emphasized the need to get together for future events. The hero turned to Orpheus, and suddenly he noticed Goblin and Rufun. Goblin grabbed his hair, and he shouted in pain. Rufuna fussed around. He asked what they were doing and pleaded not to pull it for his hair. Orpheus suggested that they may want him to join their game. It surprised Cross, so he wondered if it really was. Goblin exclaimed, confirming their intentions. The hero agreed. Everything is true. Recently, he has been so delving into training that he completely released them out of sight. He sincerely apologized and assured that he would definitely make up. Demons reacted happily in response. Orpheus said he went then, and Cross agreed. Now he stared at the traces on the ground. He thought about whether they got a second chance with his brother, and whether they could fix everything. He would like it to be possible, but what is not? He said that if he fails to convince him, the Orpha will have to stop it. He realized that he would be able to survive here, and would not die. In the office of the Dean Cross, he wondered why he only failed the exam on the title of knight. The dean replied that he heard rumors about bribery of students for the sake of defeat. The hero exclaimed that he did not do anything like that, and asked to explain the situation. The dean regretted but added that punishment is inevitable. Cross asked to listen to him. Suddenly Bart struck his palm on his face. The brothers said Cross disgraced the Beckhurst family, asking if it rewards them for everything. Cross replied that he did nothing. Lifting his gaze, he noticed the smiling brother of Leon around the corner. The hero wondered if they could start taking it all over. Although he doubted it. They were eternal enemies, eternally beat each other to the bears. It was their usual way. Someone called him. He heard his name and woke up. Olivia stood in front of him. She asked if everything was fine with him, because he did not look good. He replied that everything was normal, just a strange dream. The girl understood it, and reported that it was quite natural. He thought that he can still see them, and it would take a little time to be taken to him. Livy said something happened. Then he intervened. The tired werewolves were held at hand, asking to hold on. One of them urged someone to bring potions. Cross came and asked what was happening here. The werewolf mentioned that their village once had 3 wolves from the north, but they made mistakes and found them. He pitied, shocking everyone. Asked another how they were able to survive. He replied, "Thanks to daily workout." Cross thanked for the report and asked the Orpheus to defeat. Tot voiced whether they missed intentionally. The hero replied that they followed him to find out their location. He relied on his intuition. His gaze penetrated through the trees. He noted that there were 3 wolves there, and we exactly came across them. He suggested that we go towards and intercepted them. Everyone agreed with this plan. 3 wolves raced forward at frantic speed. The earth began to disperse. Vovklakam seemed strange. They were surprised to ask why a piece of healthy soil rose suddenly. Orpheus appeared behind them. He turned to 3 friends and noted. It took a long time from their last meeting. He apologized but said they couldn't let them go. One of the 3 laughed quietly. He wondered if he was faced with the younger brother of the king, Orpheus. He then asked how he was at the head of a group of worried losers. Cross replied that he was the head of the organization where Orpheus is now working, and if he has something to say, let him say. We werewolves and noted, "Oh, the loser turned into a domestic dog." The hero became angry. Orpheus ordered him to listen in Libya. Cross asked him. He noted that a terrible aura came out of the Trinity, the same as his brother. It caused him anxiety, and he advised to be careful. Cross promised to remain alert. The wolves stated that there was no point in running away from such fools, and that they cut off his head right here and now to carry her to a real king. One of them suggested just to use this subject and asked if it was really right. The other, holding the object in his hands, completely agreed. Orpheus was surprised that it could not be. He called this item a magic stone. Meanwhile, the werewolf with a brazen confidence threw him into his mouth. He stated that he could now become the most powerful werewolf, like a king. Laughing loudly, he began to turn. He quarreled powerfully. Cross and Libya were surprised to watch the events, asking what was happening. The faces were turned over the wolf. The powerful growl was sounded again. Puzzled and surprised, they did not understand what was happening to them. One of the werewolves rushed forward. The hero, without spending time, shouted that they were dangerous. Olivia evaded his blow, jumping away. She screamed to take a blow and hurt her own. To her surprise, his wound was healing instantly. The wolf rushed at the cross, but he skillfully repulsed the attack with a sword. Orpheus called the hero that their forces were strengthened by magical stone. Cross replied that it was obvious. Orpheus advised not to play their pace. He shouted Libya to remember her usual workouts. Tot agreed. The airwolf jumped on Libya. The girl focused, pulled out her water blade and struck a sharp blow. She struck the wolf with her sword into his stomach, breaking his protection like a shell. Her sword went through, all the blood was flooded around. She screamed that he needed to go on magic stones inside their bodies, because their destruction would deprive the enemies of control. Cross responded, "We will make the same way." Orpheus also supported this idea. All werewolves were defeated, and magical stones inside them were destroyed. Cross noted that their mission was successful, but if they do not return, they will notice that something is wrong and can come to investigate soon. Orpheus kept silence. The hero asked if everything was fine. The man answered in the affirmative and added that these guys did not know the mercy. He said that one day a stranger approached him with a suggestion of a magic stone agreement. Cross was surprised. Orpheus noted that he did not recognize the seller's face, but he called a vampire. Livia said that vampires and foxes have magic and are able to create a variety of magical tools. He told that his father was a man of honor and hated magical instruments. That is why they rejected their use. He also did not know that he actually sold magical stones to his brother secretly from his father. He argued that now they are no longer people but demons, and it would be pointless to allow the younger generation to wear something like that. He explained to the peasants what he was in mind. He told how they destroyed the Northmen nearby and emphasized the ability to expand the search area. Therefore, he urged everyone to be vigilant and not stop training. All unanimously agreed. The hero decided to remain silent about the magic stone. After all, if you scare enemies, it can turn against them. With their present power, the worst scenario is to be completely destroyed. Ross reported that he intended to go to the Slisky village. Orpheus was surprised and asked if their alliance was still relevant. The hero replied that it was important, but first you need to exchange information about magical stone. Orpheus noted that Sufi warned that they were vulnerable to it. Of course, magical stones and tools can be a threat to Mucus. Cross agreed. It is worth informing this in advance, and perhaps it will change their point of view. The most obvious of the audience asked if he could go with them. The hero refused, explaining that he had an important meeting today. Rufuna barks loudly. He explained that he was very busy with training and various things that upset Gablin lately. Today, 3 of them finally had to go to the forest after a long break. Rufuni said that this is not quite what they planned, but they are going now. He asked where Gablin. He wondered if she was still in a bad mood, and noted that there is little time and he should use the call of call here. Rufuna shakes her head negatively. Cross asked if it really was needed. Rufuna barks loudly. The hero wondered if it was worth sent and looking for him. Rufuna confirmed. Orpheus did not realize how he understood it. Cross expressed concern about the movement of wolves from the north and ordered Gablani to immediately notice if he noticed a threat. In case of danger, he promised to give potions that he fixed on the collar of the Rofune. He asked her to take him to Goblin. She agreed. Meanwhile, Goblin collected flowers, braiding them in a wreath. She dreamed of putting it on the cross, and Lada would praise her. Suddenly, someone grabbed her hand, pulling on. Leon squeezed and grabbed her hair, lifting her up. He asked if she was the same Goblinsha who beat Albert. Cross asked if Goblin, which was sent, disappeared. Rufuna roared back. He wondered if the aroma was in vain. She claimed that yes. The hero reflected how strange it is that Rufuna's sense seems very well developed. He thought again, Gablin has a name as a demon, so how could Rune help her? Cross assured her that everything was fine with him, but probably it was her smell today. He suggested just back to where she felt her smell. Someone held Gablin's head firmly. He noted that it is strange that no one has noticed them yet, because all their locality is already completely wrapped in smoke from the guides of the lower world. He threatened Goblin. If she does not want her skull to be crushed, let him tell if he recognizes at least one of the surrounding faces. She experienced severe pain. Leon noted that she seemed to have a remarkable status for Goblin, and wondered if she could at least tell her at least one person here. He showed a photo of a sponsor family with strokes. Goblin recognized it. Leon turned her gaze. She suddenly grabbed his hand, trying to get out. He asked what she was doing. It was futile. She could no longer harm him without even scratching. Hands clung to her head, and she screamed of pain. Leon ordered her to answer, and asked if she was afraid to lose her head. Blina cried, feeling not good. She still holding his hand, trembling. Leon was tense. He threw her to the flowers. The knight asked if everything was fine with him. He answered in the affirmative, noting that she would still not be able to tell him anything important. He returned to her and started talking about the demons until Goblin pulled a charming drink. The knights noticed the bottle and asked where she hid it. Gablin, having drunk her drink, rushed to Leon's attack. She stopped the knight with her strong fist, informing that she would not allow her to get closer to the LA master. She fell to the ground. Blood flowed from her mouth, and she was curled with a ball. Leon told the knights that Goblin with potions, a site to be found, and ordered to find out from her where the cross was located. Although they said that the knights who made all the creatures of the upper world be humble, were able to learn about the location of the cross, Goblin studied them carefully. At this point, in the forest, Cross shouted, asking where she was. There was only silence in response. The hero guessed that it was not only about the smell of Rufuna. He could not believe that he had lost his ability to use the technique of definition and call. He noted that the search did not work like the wolves they overcame in the morning, and that the situation was constantly changing. However, he had to be more careful. Cross wondered what to do next. Suddenly he was covered by an unexpected wave of rest. The moon came and hugged him, filled with warmth. He returned to her. He confessed that it was because of her presence that he felt inner peace, and emphasized that it was important to maintain balance at such moments. He added that he sees the light in her eyes. Suddenly he noticed that everything around Rufuno shines. In surprise, he asked what kind of light it comes from it. Using the assessment skill, it was extremely impressed. He did not immediately realize what it was. At this point, the flowers were filled with blood. They immediately explained why they called knights fools. They apologized to admit that she was more stubborn than they thought. He instructed them to find a cross, emphasizing what would wait here. They conquered, and potions flew in the air. Leon turned. Goblinsh was behind his back, all in bruises and scratches. Her eyes were burning a rage directed directly at him. Using magic, he made her several beats. Goblinsha fell again, covered with blood. Leon shouted loudly that it is enough. He shouted about Goblinsha and about the knights he brought here, about this fox and a family from the Bakaristan cross. He exclaimed why they could not just do the way he wanted and asked him to stop him. Leon shouted that if they tried to deceive him again or did not meet his expectations, he would destroy the fox and their families. The knights with horror begged for forgiveness. Flower petals climbed into the air. The hurricane, formed around Gablin, picked up the petals that twisted around her wounds, forcing them to disappear. The knight shouted that it was because of these wounds that she had incredible healing ability. Leon called everyone fools, explaining that it was just her skill. He suggested that she probably drew vital force directly from the environment. He thought that she may have a herb talent, but decided that it was not. After all, unlike people and half-people, demons should only have their own unique skills. He thought that if so, it has a unique rare skill. A man in a black cloak did not believe what it was possible. How could she break through the smoke and use the skill? And suddenly, his body seemed to be split in half. He fell to the ground. The second person did not have time to realize what was happening before the same thing happened. Fun suddenly appeared before them. The knight asked the wolf if he was the one who killed them. Another asked how the demon managed to penetrate into this smoke. Leon thought about this wolf and thought it was simply impossible. Goblin, surrounded by aura of light, climbed into the sky. The knights were stunned. They could not understand the nature of this unexpected glow. Leon was surprised, realizing that it is the technique of evolution of demons. Goblin's glow illuminated everything around. Flower petals were scattered around it. She was alive and healthy, and her appearance has undergone significant changes. She laughed and shouted that, of course, she did not understand what had happened, and just thought that she had not murdered her. Suddenly he shouted at pain. Gablin struck him sharply in his face. With one precise movement, lifting her leg, she ruthlessly ripped her head off his shoulders. Another knight witnessed this scene. He shouted, not understanding how it became possible because only yesterday he married. He asked loudly how she could do so. The knight closed his helmet silently, walked away. He shouted that she would not hurt him now. Goblin was just in front of him, cutting the ground under his feet. She touched him with her own hand. He could not realize what was happening. She struck that pierced his armor. Blood wrapped the knight. He lay dead. Leon realized that she deliberately gave a blow to pass, and it destroyed his protection. Gablin turned away, but suddenly someone called her name. She turned and was very surprised. She rushed into his arms, a little embarrassed. He assured her that it is wonderful that everything was fine with her. He wondered that all the surrounding plants were medicinal herbs, and how well it recognized them. However, this smoke deprived Rufan's ability to feel their aroma. The hero wondered how he was able to overcome smoke through the unique skills and senses of Rufun, obtained as a result of evolution. This was what explained why his call and object detection technique was so effective. Leon turned to Cross, noting that a long time had passed since their last meeting. Cross turned. He noticed Leon, who literally lost his mind from rage. The hero asked if the person came to return him as Albert. The stranger asked Albert once again, noting that his father said that Cross was robbing with the goblins. The hero replied that if he was so aware, he knew that he would not return. The hero planned to let him go, so that he could return whole and unharmed. However, having clasped his fists, he added that he should tell him something. Therefore, they were stuck that they had exhausted all their forces in the fight against Goblin, and they asked him not to assume that he would now be able to return to the upper world now. Leon was silent, but suddenly exploded with loud laughter. He unbuttoned his clothes, and on his chest there was a stove stone. Rosa covered a wave of surprise. He was convinced that he understood the essence of the brotherly spirit, but unexpectedly realized that he had no desire to do anything for these scoundrels above. Leon stated Cross that he had come here for the sole purpose, to end with him. Leon and Cross met face to face. The hero thought he knew certain things, and understood that this magical stone was undermined by his skill. He asked his brother where he received the magic stone, adding that he believed that they were difficult to find in the upper world. Leon replied that the stone was created by Maruna's crosses. This caused him a great surprise. He was thinking about Marunus, an insidious semi-human listener, which hid her true essence from all other than him. Leon asked what had happened to him, and was shocked to learn that his own maid had been taken away from him. The hero decided that now it is not the best moment to learn about Moraeus. He wondered that the magic stone merged with his body, but Leon retained his consciousness. Does he go crazy like those wolves in the morning? That's what interested him the most. He confirmed that foxes are able to create magical artifacts, but heard that this stone has dangerous side effects. Leon shouted with a smile whether Cross was still angry because he was taken away. He noted that only crosses throughout the upper world is so unannexed to entrust the inseparable servants, and then give it to sinners and slaves and get rid of it. The hero believed that he should resort to tricks. Leon noted that it is unpleasant to take what remains. Leon exclaimed that he was ought by Cross and rushed to him rapidly. He struck a screen into the stomach of the hero, slightly throwing him back. Leon shouted to look at all this luxurious wealth and power. They were all only a means of revenge against him. The trials he experienced in the upper world did not mean anything compared to his plan. He struck the cross with his fist, but he was able to repel the attack with his sword. The brother exclaimed that he took the blow and, squeezing his fist, tried to impress him again and again. In the end, the hero fell on his back. Leon almost reached him, but Cross was able to jump quickly and hit him with his foot. The hero, shouting, jumped to his brother, aiming at him. The man carelessly beat the blow as if he was indifferent. Cross thought that he strengthened his strength. Tot strongly struck. Cross returned to Leon and noted that he was unknown to the real meaning of magical stones. Leon was surprised. The hero explained that the abilities are the gift of the Almighty God, and the demonic stone is only a miracle created by people and subdivisions. Leon shed with a loud laugh and said loudly that he was taught only when he cannot win, proposing to demonstrate his divine power. Cross replied that if he insists, then let it be. He struck all over in the face. Blood splashed from the mouth and nose of Leon. Leon was surprised, having suddenly received such a blow. The hero continued to keep his hand on his face, thinking about the event. Leon spent several times on his body, almost losing his balance and almost falling back. The hero explained that he applied the skill that increases physical parameters and is the most common among his skills. Leon laughed and encouraged him to try something more powerful. He loudly stated that it did not work at all, laughing and exclaiming that this is how the power of God looks. Then he added that his turn now, and swinging his hands. He waved his hands, creating a sharp gust of wind that cuts everything around. And so he used a confusing strategy and an indirect attack. The indirect attack was successful. Leon was stunned. His clothing and leather were shaken. He looked at Cross, who asked if he remembered everything. Cross wondered if Leon remembered their last duel and whether he remembered the revenge then. Leon, surprised, asked if he was talking about what he had forgotten. He shouted that Cross was probably jokes, asking if he really believed that all the diversity of humiliation is only connected with that day. The hero is silent in response. Leon yells that the hero was always like that. He always looked at him from above, envied and tried to take everything he had. And his cry does not die. He shouted that he would never forgive and kill him right now. He aimed at his attack, used tornado. The hero could not even imagine that his brother was able to evoke such a powerful wind magic. However, he decided that, as he assumed, the influence of the magic stone was terrible. Due to its increased mass and speed of rotation, the push will decrease, so it will be easier to dodge. From behind, someone reached out to the cross. The knight grabbed the cross. The hero realized that he was a headless rider and could not understand what was happening. Leon noticed it. He laughed and shouted that such a knight was right to stay on. Tornado almost caught up with the cross. Suddenly, Goblin and Rufuna appeared, helping him to evade him. Lion was angry. Goblin pulled the heart out of the darkness, squeezing it firmly in his palm. Thank them. He praised them for his wonderful job. Demons happily stuck. The hero thought that this means that knights also have magical stones. He thought that he stopped moving only when his internal organs were destroyed. So while the heart remained unharmed, the magic stone could control it. He boiled with anger. Cross asked if he was now aware of what is being discussed. He said that the head of the head helped him, but the magic stone he absorbed was dangerous. Tafa carefully touched this stone, feeling fear. Cross advised him to return to the top while his mind was still with him. He stated that he could not help, but there is someone who is capable. Leon shouted to silence. All other stones were in his hands. The hero realized that he had even more stones in his hands. Leon shouted that he could no longer afford. He desperately stuffed all the stones into his mouth in one movement. The hero shouted to him that he was stupid and ordered to spit out these stones immediately. The brother laughed loudly. For Cross, it was like an ominous and terrible feeling. Leon continued to laugh. His face began to distinguish. He shouted that he was feeling as a magical power raging in it. Suddenly blood flowed from his ears, nose, mouth, and head. He began to fall. Leon was suddenly on his back. Cross looked at it with surprise. He realized that the body could no longer resist magical stone. He argued that at such a speed, the process could get out of control, and that the heart should be stopped immediately. With sadness of his brother, Cross asked if he was true that hatred could bring a person to a similar state. Goblin and Rufuna stared at him. The hero used the style of the water sword and said goodbye to Leia. The hero aimed his sword directly on the breast of the enemy, but suddenly a bright ray of light appeared. The sword slipped out of his hand, and suddenly something unusual appeared in front of him. Goblin and Rufuna, covered with horror for him, cried out in one voice. The cross and the flight turned back and Leon rose to his feet. He shouted, and at the same time with shouts behind his back, wings appeared. His body began to increase. Horns, hooves, and long nails have grown. He continued to shout. Cross saw Goblin and Rufuna, but suddenly realized that he did not hear anything. His face was filled with blood. Cross demons tried to make him get up. The hero thought that if Lee reflected did not work, it would be difficult for him to take advantage of his abilities. Mom told little Leon that he will soon have a younger brother or sister, and he will be a good friend to them. The boy answered her that she loved her. His hair jumped in the wind, and looking for his mother, he asked where she was. With a changed look, Leon called his mother loudly. He shouted, looking intently and asking where the cross was. There were bloody traces that led to the cave on the ground. There was a drinking bottle. Goblin was sitting nearby, crying quietly. Cross lost his hand along with a part of the torso, and Rufuna Nizlis got a cut on the cheek. The Goblinidus returned to him and, pouring tears, gently hugged him by the cheek. She fell into despair, screamed, and began to embrace his body. Rufuna was lost, and the hero still remained stationary. Goblin trembled. She exploded with a loud cry, and the wolf's tears flowed down. Suddenly, emergency programming began to activate. Before the demons, there was a report of emergency maintenance. It said that a serious mistake was found in the physical body of the carrier, and maintenance would begin in 5 seconds. The demons discussed this in confusion, noting that this procedure took a lot of life energy, and advised to start when it would be enough. Reduce the countdown. They noted that the accuracy of this service will also depend on the level of ownership of the demon operator. It is recommended that you check the log screen after completing the work for detailed information. The reverse count reached 1. Emergency service was announced. The light began to glitter from the cross. Goblin and Rufuna behaved aggressively. A giant flying ball appeared in the air. The demon, lifting his gaze, glared. Reinstall the lost blood. The hero felt his hand recovering. The process of repairing the damaged area was in full swing. Life returned to the face of Cross. There was a sign of emergency service on the screen. The screen states that the emergency service is completed. Thanks for use. Goblin and Rufuna were surprised to look at each other. Suddenly, Cross coughed. They immediately rushed to him. The hero used light magic. A bright ball of radiance appeared above them. Cross confessed that they were those who saved him and asked if. He returned to Goblin and Rufuna with a smile on his face. He thanked them, and tears trembled again in the eyes of Goblin. They hugged the hero. One of them, pointing to his hand, noted that it is amazing how there was no trace. As if no one had ever tried to attack him. He asked what had happened to Leon and noted that it seemed as if he had planned to finish him. Demons answered. Cross noted that one of them was clearly cursed, and the magic stone blocked the study technique. Suddenly, sounds were heard. He saw Leon in front of the grave. The hero did not immediately realize what was happening. The older brother near the tomb explained the mother that he was he. He first thought it was Leon's memories. The man explained the mother that after the disappearance of the cross, the brothers began to attack him. The hero believed that memories fill his mind through the flash of magic stone. Leon had a bouquet in his hands. He told his mother that a cross was born. A dark shadow hung. His mother died, and their family seemed to be destined for misery. He stated that the brothers would not be able to find common ground. Since the cross has come to the world, they have been haunted. He turned to his mother, asking them to see them from heaven. He promised to take revenge for the humiliation she suffered through him, and take revenge for her death. The hero escaped from the captivity of Leon's memoirs. He noted that the demonic stone extinguished his ability, but did not interfere with the other part of his consciousness. Memories suddenly raged in his head, and no questions arose. Goblin returned to him and asked if the crime was now just to be alive. Cross replied that all these words were familiar to him, and they were already tired. He turned to the demons, apologized to them, and reported that they would have to communicate a little more patiently with his stupid brother. We exclaimed that 3 of them would stop here. Goblin and Rufuna agreed. At this point, following the bloody footprint, Leon found the cave in which they were. He struck the rocks with his fist. He began to roll the cave, asking for a cross where he was. The man shouted that he was here. Leon turned. He did not notice the hero and asked where he was. Rufine appeared in front of him. Leon asked where the cross was. Leon shouted the name of the hero and reached out, almost grabbing the wolf. Rufina howled the throat loudly. Liam hesitated and stepped back. Cross called Goblin, who immediately rushed forward. Reflecting on the unique skill of the Rufinar, which temporarily imprisoned the target in golden sands, Cross informed Lion that everything was completed. His brother shouted, cheering on a new battle. Goblin was also ready to rush on the offensive. They strongly directed their blow directly on the magic stone. Stone's disintegration as if they were released. Blood splashed from Leon's chest. The body lying on the ground began to disappear. Cross watched. He said that the powerful flow of magical energy caused the body's astralization, and even his skills were powerless before it. He addressed Leon with lightning determination. The hero stated that he completely broke all the connections with the upper world, and now he indifferently what would happen to him. He stopped. Cross confessed that he was overwhelmed by his mother, and he regrets it. Leon saw a black point on top. When she approached, it became clear that it was flying. Leon was stunned. It was his mom who was flying on white wings. Looking at her, Cross decided that her mother had arrived behind Leon. He laughed, noting that finally this moment came. He said it was their earliest meeting, and from that moment, they will be together forever. Leon dissolved in the glow that surrounded him, while Cross and his friends were fascinated. The hero stared at the distance. He proposed the case of Goblini and Rufunigo, who immediately agreed. The lone white feather was smoothly circling in the air. This time, in the upper world, in the atmosphere of trust, the maid turned to Mary, asking her to take care of the window. Mary agreed, noting that she was curious about whether Mr. Leon returned home. She sadly added that she was awful to see how the head of the family loses her children. The fox listened carefully. Suddenly, something fell on the floor. The girl leaned and lifted the collar that flew from her. The maids were worried about whether everything was fine. One of them replied that no. She noted that she has a need not burning, so she would go to throw it away. The maid responded, "Well, ask her to do it." Liz realized that his plan had fallen. Leon was killed in this place, having transformed into the likeness of the fox. The girl asked the Cross to wait, because she would definitely return to him. Orpheus asked Cross about what he meant. Cross mentioned Guhao, and noted that he had visited the village of Snail's tribe to check this information. The hero denied, explaining that it was still in the process. Then he saw Olivia, which looked out of the house, and asked what was the matter. She replied worriedly that everything is awful, and she wants to become useful to him. Orpheus asked the werewolf if he told Libya. The answer was affirmative, but it seems that she wanted to hear it in person. Cross apologized, explaining that he was in a hurry. The girl stated with annoyance that she knew nothing. He was embarrassed and tried to find out what was the matter. With a smile on his face, Cross noted that he had never seen her angry before, and this is a real novelty for him. The girl was confused. She shouted with indignation that he should not squeeze it, and she was not going to listen to him. To which he said that he did not flatter to her. Libya noticed Goblinka. She exclaimed, asking how it happened, and whether Cross believes that she has changed. He replied that it was a consequence of evolution. Libya stunned them, stunning them, but asked the suit. The hero explained that he created him using tailoring skills, trying to recreate the sample from the book he read at night school. He noted that, in his opinion, he coped quite well. Olivia agreed that it turned out fine, but suddenly began to invent excuses on all sides. She joked about how she grew out of Goblin, and she may have to grow up a little. She started jumping. Cross noted that jumping would not make it higher. Along with her, Goblin's chest was bouncing. Libya's passionate shouting that Cross is an idiot, and she rushed to run away. Tot shouted without realizing what had happened. He said she had gone. Orphea asked what to do next and whether to have fun without Libya. The hero replied that he would wait, because he may be just a joke. Orpheus agreed and wondered why the man would not tell him what happened in a slippery village. Sufi inserted about vampires with wolves. The hero replied that yes, really. According to him, 3 wolves came to the village this morning, each of which had magic stones. He noted that then he did not tell anyone about it. But the Orpheus, who was always nearby, was the brother of the Wolf King Weldy. Last year, Orpheus offered a magic vampire stone, but he refused. But later his brother concluded an agreement with them. Cross noted that vampires have the skill in creating magical tools and stones, and that it will be difficult to cope with the problem in the future if they only act on their own. He asked if it was true, and Sufi thought. She replied that she had understood his words. She added that it would put them in conflict with the warring wolves, and if they do it, they will not be able to find the strength to look into the eyes of the dead comrades. The girl said she could not join them. Cross looked closely at her. Substituting, he assured that he understood her concern for his tribesmen. He stressed that he was ready to be near, and if she needs something, they will be able to solve everything together. After that, he left. Sitting under a tree, he thoughtfully reflected. The hero noted that although the union was not concluded, they felt a threat, and it was justified. Orpheus apologized to what Cross was surprised to ask why. The wolf looked upset. The inhabitants of this forest were usually treated with people who came from the upper world, with certain fatigue. Conflicts between creatures have practically not arisen. He noted that the wolves violated the local order. Cross suggested that the man looked excited. He said Orphea took up too much. He noted that he would be a connective between them, and Orphea had to focus on to curb the brothers' anger outbreaks. The werewolf returned to him. Cross confessed that he was thinking about everything that surrounds him. He noted that he knew for sure. Orpheus is the person who deserves to become the king of wolves. One of them was puzzled when the left appeared. The heroes said they were waiting for her. The first exclaimed, asking why he didn't follow her. That's pale. The wolves followed them. Some of them noted that Master Orpheus was once completely different. Someone added that he knew. They did not win their brother. The Kiba stated that he had already made a decision. He was convinced that if they returned to the village now, they would be able to overcome them. He noted that it was still better than just sitting here, and that he does not want to see Orpheus again in that state. In the upper world, in the renovated house, Ellis bathed in the bath. The maid, apologizing, reported that the owner of the house was waiting for her. The girl replied that she understood and came out of the water. The girl, surrounded by help, completed her outfit, hairstyle, and makeup. Once in the room, she turned to her father, reporting it was Ellis. The man reported that he had heard of her successful fight against demons. The girl replied that she was constantly forced to act and solve all the problems of their country. My father said that he had 2 news for her. First, Leon from the Beckhurst family, sent to the lower world, has not yet returned. He said that the leaders of the lower world were already looking for him and found his companion, but Leon never found it. Ellis thought about Leon and remembered that he was the same who lost the battle for the transition. She warned him of the intersection, but it was she who ordered him to act. She was thinking about what a masterpiece was that all the hatred was aimed at crossing. The father also mentioned something more, the statements about the annex in the Mississilian family. He noted that there are rumors that Mississilian may join the search team. Ellis was shocked and exclaimed with surprise. Her father explained that the king had changed his position, now trying to strengthen the defense against the threat of demons, and this required a relationship. He added that the decision to send Mina was not frivolous, because for success they decided to attract Nina, which had a good relationship with the cross. She stated that in this case, she would go there. Her father was against it. She shouted what would happen to their situation if something happened to them. My father advised her to think about everything. He stressed that gossip should not interfere with their country serving. She thought about what she does not like when this girl approaches the cross without her. She remembered how Minao said that Ellis had no idea of the cross. The girl thought for a moment. In the settlement of the Wolf's tribe in the north, 3 newcomers declared their desire to join their clan. The tribe agreed without hesitation. The wolf exclaimed that their leader would never allow such, and they should stop joke. The leader looked at the Kiba and asked if their husband who had recently disappeared to the village and still did not return. The Kiba just looked away, avoiding answers. He remembered the victims of the wolves in the village, who told that they had lost their aliens from the north. He replied that he believed that it was the case of the hands of their new human leader, Suddenly, the wolf was indignant loudly, noting that the Kiba did not tease them, calling the leader a petty man. The leader stated that he was rumored about the appearance of an extremely strong person in the lower world, but he could not imagine that his brother would be with her. He noted that if the noble wolf bows before the mortal, it is not surprising that his subordinates were exhausted. Brother Orpheus reported that they would gladly accept them in their home. All three were happy, but he warned that they would not be able to let them out without evidence. The girl kept a tray. The knife was lying on the tray. The wolf said it would be fair if they show sincerity and asked, or he suggested finding out what they are ready to go for a place. 3 recruits made every effort. Do not forget what it started. He confessed that he was ready for it from the outset. One of the wolves asked the boss if he was sure, noting that something was wrong here. The boss asked what it was. The wolf replied that they were conceived and impossible to just come and join them. Varad asked if he did not consider his gang a bad entry. He noted that their orders may not fit him. Subsequently, someone else exclaimed that they will quickly make him understand their place. Another confirmed that this is true, and if something, can be re-educated in prison. He did not quite understand what was happening and decided to change the topic. He asked the boss if he would take that sword this time. Other wolves began to make fun of him, calling a fool. Verd looked at him seriously, and the wolf said that the sword could be useful for a clash with Slyan. Verd threw the object with all his strength, breaking the window. The wolf flew away from the house. The chief said that peace and silence have finally come. Other wolves considered him a fool, because conversations about the swords were forbidden. They knew that this sword was the only thing Lord Verdun could get, although he always sought power. When the boss was told that it was time to go, the man agreed. He ordered them to start absorbing magical stones. They obeyed. With loud screams, their appearance began to change. He was enthusiastically stated how beautiful the month is. He declared everyone that only in heaven can this magic satellite be found. Meanwhile, the wolves were signaled to go to the raid. The moon was concealed among the branches of trees. The peasants went through the night forest. Orpheus noted that they would soon reach the villages of Simakiv and asked everyone to prepare. All unanimously supported this proposal. Verwolfs discussed that it was their leader, that the Kiba with others retreated, but he remained adamant. Cross looked at Orpheus. He thoughtfully plunged into his thoughts. Despite the loss in the battle with his brother, he shouted that it was his last great victory. Orpheus had poor health, which did not slip from his father's attention. Orpheus asked his father who it was. He replied that he was Kai, Kiba, and Roy, from left to right, and said he would train them now. The Kiba approached the Orpheus, reached out to him and said that he was glad. Tot kept silence. He rejected the guy's hand and reproached, "Don't get you. You don't know, who am I?" The Kiba was surprised. After the battle, a little later, he stated that he knew who Orpheus was. He said this guy is the weakest of all. The father told Orpheus that he gave him time until noon the next day to deal with 3 of them. He asked if it would be 3 against 1. The father warned that in the event of defeat he would release him. The guy was stunned. The father ordered 3 to oversee him. They agreed to execute the assignment. The Kiba suggested that time to act, as there was little time. He asked how they planned to proceed. Orpheus was fiercely angry. He shouted that they were not admired, and warned that he was ready to beat everyone 3 to death. Orpheus would be defeated, and after that they would eat, rested, and later fought again. Time was floating. Rasta, holding the stick, flew back. Orpheus won all 3. They lay on the ground. He looked at his hand in surprise. The Kiba told him that his strength had grown here. The ogress was supported. Orpheus immersed his gaze into the darkness of the forest. Meanwhile, Akiba and comrades were in a cage. The boys shouted Kibi to hold on to the potion. Aro noted that it seems that it would not be able to recover quickly. He noted that the attempt to penetrate imperceptibly threatens rapid exposure. Kibo looked intently at his hand with a cut finger. He stressed that they need to act with the resources they have and try, because he is ready to sacrifice even life for Orpheus, even if it costs just a few fingers. The boys looked at him with joy in his eyes. Nevertheless, the situation is going on plan. The Kiba noted that at first they need to penetrate the dungeon, and today is a favorable moment, because most of the security is absent. According to him, this is only part of their mission, because there is the main reason for their arrival. He assured that it was the sword that had to belong to Orpheus. He said it was time to take the case. Kai replied that time to test his skills of breakage of locks. The Kiba noted that with this sword, Orpheus will inevitably be revived, and they will be able to atone for their master. Everyone agreed. The moon was reflected in the water. In the moonbeam over SFI wide inscriptions. He noted that he did not tell them the date of his visit, but the whole clan gathered to meet him. And he asked if she could resist her desire to see her new master. The girl assured that number. She explained that the wolves were the most inaccessible over a month, and they knew that he would attack this night. She felt that the subordinates had something wrong, and realized that it was a full moon. It seemed to her that a magic stone really existed. Sufi ordered to retreat, stating that they would not become slaves. Vered replied that everything was clear and nothing to change. He stated that he would destroy them all without exception. Sufi appeared before the wolves. By applying the transformation, it caused the appearance of mucus. Her clothing and body have undergone striking changes. The girl declared that this village would become free. Raising her hand, she threw her mucus away. They froze in the branches of trees, watching it. One of the wolves wondered what happened. The other asked if they left their leader himself. The wolves noticed that the swamp stretched directly behind her. They warned loudly that if she is in danger, he will be in trouble in this swamp, and they would not allow it. The wolves rushed to Sufi. One of the boys tried to hit her in his stomach with his fist, but his blow walked through her. The wolf was puzzled. His hand began to melt and he shouted in pain. The wolf struck loudly that his hand dissolves like acid. He shouted at the shout that it is simply impossible. His body was completely acid. They could not understand what their mistake is. Meanwhile, the wolf noticed something suspicious. Many eyes looked at him. Time began to slide rapidly, preparing everyone for battle. They rushed to the wolves, burning them with acid, and they cried out, asking what was happening. One of the wolves exclaimed not to panic and remind that they have magical stones. Longjet rolled past 3 wolves. Their cries were torn the air, but Sufi remained adamant. Lifting her head when the blood was still flowing, the wolf could not believe how quickly she won them. The girl believed that their victory was possible only together. She called out loud, offering him to absorb these wolves. The wolves panicized. One expressed unbelief in how acid everything became. Another asked what to do next. Verd thought about the magic stone, realizing that it meant only one. He was not sure whether these creatures were acidic mucus, because they should live where strong acid is constantly poured. He suggested that if so, then it was probably a skill, but did not understand why so many mucus were the same ability. He noticed how the root mucus roots extended to the tree, and other mucus flows led to the reservoir. The girl stated that their chances were exhausted, and time to retreat while there was an opportunity. Vered just smiled back. He made a powerful lift. Sufi was stunned. The slims screamed. The tree cut off and it fell. Bird told how she used her skills to purify the acid, pumping water out of the swamp, and then moving it through the tube from its feet to mucus and trees. He asked if she really believed that he could deceive him. He noted that this means that it was only necessary to break this chain. Vovkulak noted that as a mucus membrane, the girl was smart enough, but it would not help her. Taid did not know how to proceed. If it is all that she could count on, then where was her spare plan? Suddenly behind him, a guy landed from above. He shouted that Varda was the killer of his friends, and now he would receive a well-deserved punishment. Sufi shouted to get up. Blood was glass. The werewolf pierced the chest of this man with a sword. Suffles with tears shouted in his eyes. Verd asked if the guy really believed that he remembers everyone he killed. He became angry even more and said he was no longer obliged to play with them. He shouted to his comrades to cut them all. The wolves chased after the snails that were covered by fear did not know where to go. Sufi begged to stop and promised to fulfill any of his demand, only they would leave them alive. But the werewolf cold replied that too late. He shouted that she was guilty, rejecting pride, which would now cause the death of her friends just in her eyes. The bird shouted that he wanted to kill, to destroy everyone without exception. Sufi sobbed when the wolves noticed someone and wondered who it was there. A lot of wolves were scared when a cross appeared. Verdi was puzzled. Sufi noticed the hero. Cross noted that for the wolves to have a full moon on their side is normal, but to rely on a magic stone, a violation of the rules. The girl joyfully saw him. Verd called him a vile and asked where he came from. Verd replied that he was her friend. When the others saw that he looks younger, Verd asked Orpheus like his wounds after a duel. He replied that everything is fine, and he was in his recovery. He added that he always knew. His brother was the strongest. Verdi said he heard Kiba and others found a trainer. Orpheus stated loudly that he was not a coach. According to him, his father would not want to be a mentor for the boys of their age. He noted that such a situation has happened and tries to provide them with friendly help. The brother replied that it was quite clear. Orpheus noted that this person is much different from others. He feels that she is able to replace her father. Verd replied that he did not know and asked if Orpheus was more suitable for it than he. He exclaimed that everyone in the village considers him the strongest, and he will become the next leader. The guy wondered what jokes were about. The brother asked what true power was. Orpheus was embarrassed. Verd was silent and just advised him to continue to train them. The younger brother exclaimed that he had already said the same thing. He is not a coach, but just a friend. Verd intervened, starting a conversation about true friendship. Looking at Cross, he asked if it was a joke. He assured her that he did not joke and came to help, because she was a real girlfriend for him. Sufi looked at him. Goblin assured Cross that they were ready and will start acting at his team at any time. The hero asked them to admit that he was a really good person. Vance. Verd warned him not to move. He pressed the sword to the Sufi's chest and ordered them to get out immediately, otherwise his friend would be cut in half. The Slim was very worried about the girl. The wolf noted that everyone around the cross, it has an unpleasant odor. But as a rival, he is quite worthy. If he does not stop interfering, he is waiting for the same fate as everyone else. At that moment, the hero had already started acting. Suffering quickly, he ran quickly due to his 5th level of improved agility. Verd did not even have time to realize what had happened. The hero urged the troops to slow the movement and ordered the goblins to stand up for the tribe of the Slips in the first place. He asked him what he did. The hero replied that he just used his skills and, incidentally, did not swallow a magic stone like them. He, hearing it, looked at his stone in surprise. Cross asked in Suf how she feels. The girl asked him not to put her on the ground. He apologized and wondered if everything was fine with her and where the blade disappeared. She assured that she was all right. The girl stated that she was thanked again. Cross asked why she would not trust her solving the situation. She lowered her gaze. She confessed that he had once suffered his cruelty and now cannot interfere as a boss. The hero looked at her in surprise. Sufei was tearing. She appealed to him pleading, asking them to help their village. At this point, one of the goblins was near the wounded Mucus. He wondered his condition and reported that he was going to use potions. Meanwhile, the wolf and the wolf on the battlefield were accused of betrayal. The wolves could not understand how everything came to this. Verd was angry. He returned to him with a proposal to come together. This caused a surprise. He said that if he wins, he would take control of this village and neighboring. And if the cross is overcome, he can do everything he pleases with them. And he asked, "Isn't it a worthy condition for the duel?" The hero replied that of course he did not deny. But it is not him, not a wolf. It is necessary to enter this fight. Orpheus suddenly appeared behind Verdi's back. The wolf asked if he was his younger brother, so weak that he could not fight honestly. He added that now the perfect time to put an end to his dishonest life, and he should be grateful for his mercy. Orpheus replied that it was he who lives in dishonesty and could not allow the one who even shakes their clan to live. He just smiled and noted that the clan would remain a clan. He said that even in the case of defeat on a duel, the conditions would remain unchanged, and asked if the man was confident in his actions. Cross replied that he agreed with such conditions. Sufi was amazed. She thought he would agree to fight. The hero noted that he never said he intended to fight in person. She shouted in a panic that the future of her tribe was at stake, and if this wolf loses, they end. Cross tried to reassure her, assuring that everything would be fine. They shouted to stop the battle and time to come to the duel, notifying the lighting of the lights. The hero confidently assured that the Orpheus would be the winner. The brothers stood opposite each other. Orpheus exclaimed and rushed forward. He believed that a weak attack would not harm him, especially given the protection of magical stones. In addition, one cunning idea has already matured in his head. He exclaimed, struck in advance with the style of a fire sword, was puzzled. He believed it was fast. However, he had time to evade. He said he was watching. His younger brother learned how to fight, and it promised to become an interesting adventure. Orpheus exclaimed that Cross taught him, and today he was here to try his strength against him. The swords flashed. Verd confessed that he was painful to see how his brother tries to seem more skillful than he really is. The wolves shouted that all the forces were concentrated against him and he was doomed. Someone ordered them to shut up. Orpheus exclaimed his brother. which would not allow him to make fun of his father and cross more, and swore his name, that his rule soon end. He managed to knock weapons out of the hands of Verd. According to this triumphant moment, wolves with enthusiasm supported him. Wolves were afraid of Verda. Orpheus stated that everything was over. Verd just smiled and noted that it was obvious. He turned to his brother and invited permission to speak. Orpheus was puzzled and could not understand what was the matter. Then the wolf said that his name is vertebrated. The younger brother could not understand what the matter. At the same moment, the next word struck her brother directly into his neck. He was in confusion. Suddenly he realized that he could not track his movements. At this time in the village of Libya sat with Rufuna and Goblin. One of the goblins suggested that they rest until they take care of everything. "Thank you for the care." She replied that everything is fine, because Mr. Cross is now in battle. And she wants to be with him, though mentally. She caught herself that she was behaving like his wife. When they were going to go, Cross discussed who would remain guarded. He noted Orpheus that he would have come to the role of a fighter. The left thought wished them both happy road. Her unrestrained blow made him branch blood. He managed to repel his brother's next attack with a knife. He shouted, and Ferd remained impressed. Lifting his eyes, Orpheus could not understand how it happened. His brother struck with great force. He laughed, watching the wolf falling on the ground. He noted that it was something unusual, and it was not just a magic stone. Verd confirmed that it was so because he also had a magical name. Orpheus was surprised. Verde thought that the wolf could also have a magical name. His thoughts were swinging around the feeling as if he had experienced a new birth, and it was nice. As I mentioned, Orpheus felt the same when the man called him and asked if it was. It annoyed him. Verde noted that now, having a magic stone, name, and his talents, he proposes to check how long the Orpheus can last.